She was the one he'd been hunting for 3 years, and she was mopping his floors. Every single day, she moved through his pack house like a ghost. Head low, scent masked, heartbeat controlled. Because if Theron Ashcroft ever looked too closely, if he ever caught the way her hands trembled when he walked past, it was over. She knew what he was searching for. The whole territory knew. His trackers had crossed 7 states. His enforcers had turned over every rock, every safe house, every forgotten corner of the wolf world. All for her. The female who vanished the night she left him bleeding in the snow. And here she was on her knees 3 feet away from him, praying to every moon goddess that existed that he wouldn't breathe in too deep. But alphas don't stay blind forever. And Theron? Theron was already watching. This is the story of Theron Ashcroft and Arianeth Vane. And it begins with a cup of coffee and a lie. Chapter 1. The Diner at the End of the World. The Rusted Spoon Diner sat on the edge of nowhere, Montana. Population, 847. 1 gas station, 2 churches, and a diner that served the best apple pie within 100 miles, or so the faded sign claimed. Arianeth Vane wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that hour, her movements precise, mechanical. The late afternoon sun slanted through the grimy windows, painting golden stripes across the cracked linoleum floor. She wore her uniform like armor. Plain white shirt, black apron, hair pulled back in a severe bun that hid the silver streak running through her dark auburn locks. A streak she'd earned the night everything changed. "Order up, Izzy." Chuck, the cook, slapped the bell twice. She hated that nickname. Izzy. It sounded soft. Harmless. Humans. She was none of those things. But she smiled anyway. The practiced smile of a woman who'd learned to blend in. To disappear. To survive. "Thanks, Chuck." Her voice was steady, unremarkable. She delivered the burger and fries to table 4. A trucker who barely looked up from his phone. Then she returned to her post behind the counter, her hands busy, her mind elsewhere. Always elsewhere. 3 years. 3 years since she'd left the Silvercrest pack. 3 years since she'd made the choice that shattered her world and saved. What? Her conscience? Her soul? Some days, she wasn't sure she had either left. The bell above the door chimed. Arianeth didn't look up immediately. She'd learned to read customers by sound. The heavy boots of truckers, the light shuffle of elderly locals, the impatient click of heels from the occasional lost tourist. But these footsteps, they were different, deliberate, confident, powerful, the kind of footsteps that made the air in the room shift, made the hairs on the back of her neck stand at attention, made her wolf, dormant for months, suddenly lift its head inside her chest. No, she looked up, and her world stopped. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the dying sun, tall and broad-shouldered, wearing dark jeans and a leather jacket that had seen better days. His hair was longer than she remembered, dark brown with hints of copper, falling just past his collar. His jaw was sharper, covered in a few days' worth of stubble. His eyes, those eyes, storm gray, piercing, unforgiving, and they were locked on her. Theron Ashcroft, alpha of the Silvercrest pack, the male she'd betrayed, the male she'd loved. For a moment, neither of them moved. The diner faded away. Chuck's humming in the kitchen. The trucker's fork scraping his plate. The hum of the old refrigerator. All of it gone. There was only him. And the weight of 3 years of silence. Coffee. Arianeth's voice came out steadier than she felt. She reached for a mug, her hands not shaking. Not yet. Theron crossed the space between them in 4 long strides. He didn't sit at a booth. Didn't choose a table by the window. He sat directly in front of her at the counter, close enough that she could smell him. Pine. Wood smoke. Alpha. Black, he said. His voice was deeper than she remembered. Rougher. Like he'd spent the last 3 years swallowing glass. She poured. The coffee steamed between them, a dark, bitter barrier. He didn't touch it. "You've been here the whole time," Theron said quietly. It wasn't a question. Arianeth set the pot down. "I don't know what you mean." 3 years, Arianeth. For 3 years I've searched every corner of North America. I tracked rumors, followed false leads, Turn over every stone and you've been here. Serving coffee, pretending to be human. Her fingers tightened on the counter. I am human. Mostly. Liar. The word was soft, almost gentle, but it cut deeper than any blade. She forced herself to meet his eyes. Big mistake, because in them she saw everything. The rage, the hurt, the betrayal, and underneath it all, something that terrified her more than his anger. Hope. You need to leave, Arianeth whispered. Please. You can't be here. Can't. Theron leaned forward, his forearms resting on the counter. Or shouldn't. Both. Too bad. He finally picked up the coffee, took a slow sip, his eyes never leaving hers. Because I'm not going anywhere. Not until you tell me why. Why what? Why did you leave? Why did you lie? Why do you let me think you were dead for 3 goddamn years? The trucker at table for glanced over, sensing the tension. Arianeth forced a smile, the mask slipping back into place. I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Maybe you have me confused with someone else. Theron's jaw tightened. He set the mug down carefully. Too carefully. You're really going to do this? Here. Now. There's nothing to do. You're a customer. I'm a waitress. That's all. He laughed. It was a hollow, bitter sound. A waitress. Right. Tell me, Izzy. He said the nickname was like a curse. Do all waitresses have a silver scar on their left shoulder blade? The one shaped like a crescent moon? The one I watched you earn when you took a blade meant for my sister? Arianeth's breath caught. Yeah. Theron's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I thought that might ring a bell. The air between them crackled with unspoken words. Accusations. Memories. The ghost of what they'd once been to each other. My shift ends at 6, Arianeth said finally, her voice barely audible. There's a motel 2 miles south. Room 12. I'll meet you there. How do I know you won't run? She looked at him then, really looked at him, and let him see past the mask for just a second. Let him see the exhaustion, the loneliness, the weight of 3 years spent looking over her shoulder. Because I'm tired of running. Theron studied her face, searching for the lie. He must not have found one, because he stood, pulled a 20 from his wallet, and dropped it on the counter. 6 o'clock, he said. If you're not there, Arianeth, I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. And next time, I won't be this nice about it. He turned and walked out, the bell chiming his departure. Arianeth stood frozen, the $20 bill sitting between them like a promise. Or a threat. Or a threat. Chuck poked his head through the serving window. Friend of yours? No, Arianeth whispered. But that was another lie. Because Theron Ashcroft had never been just a friend. He'd been her alpha, her commander, her lover, and she'd left him bleeding in the snow, with nothing but a note and a choice that had torn her soul in half. She picked up the 20. Her hands were shaking now. 6 o'clock. 2 hours. 2 hours to decide if she was going to finally tell him the truth, or run one more time. Chapter 2. Ghosts and Shadows. The motel was called The Pines, though most of the pines had been cut down decades ago to make room for a parking lot that now hosted more weeds than cars. Arianeth sat on the edge of the sagging bed in room 12, her duffel bag at her feet. Packed. Ready. Old habits. Always have an exit strategy. Always keep your essentials within arm's reach. Never get comfortable. The clock on the nightstand blinked 5:47 p.m. in angry red numbers. 13 minutes. She'd showered, scrubbing the smell of fryer grease and desperation from her skin. Now she wore jeans and a simple gray sweater, her hair still damp, the silver streak visible against the dark auburn. She'd stopped hiding it an hour ago. What was the point? He knew who she was, what she was. The wolf inside her paced restlessly, agitated by his proximity. For 3 years, she'd kept it buried, starved it into submission. But the moment Theron walked into that diner, everything she'd locked away came roaring back. The bond. God, the bond. It wasn't a mate bond. She'd never been that lucky. But it was something. Pack connection. Alpha and soldier. The invisible thread that tied every wolf to their leader. A pull stronger than gravity. Deeper than blood. She tried to sever it the night she left. It hadn't worked. A knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. Arianeth's heart kicked against her ribs. She stood, smoothed her hands over her jeans, a nervous gesture she immediately regretted. Weakness. She was showing weakness. She opened the door. Theron stood in the threshold, broader than the doorway, his presence filling the space like a storm about to break. He'd lost the leather jacket. Now he wore only a dark Henley that stretched across his chest, the sleeves pushed up to his forearms, revealing corded muscle and old scars. Warrior scars. Alpha scars. You came, Arianeth said softly. You sound surprised. I wasn't sure you would. I told you I would. Theron stepped inside, and she moved back instinctively, giving him room. He closed the door behind him, the click of the lock impossibly loud in the small space. I'm a man of my word, Arianeth. You used to know that. The accusation hung between them. She crossed her arms over her chest, a defensive posture she couldn't quite suppress. You want answers. I want the truth. He turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his gray eyes made her breath hitch. 3 years ago, you disappeared. No warning. No explanation. Just a note that said, I'm sorry. Don't look for me. That's it. That's all I got after 5 years of fighting beside you. 5 years of trusting you with my life, my pack, my family. Theron, I mourned you. His voice cracked, just slightly, and the sound cut through her like silver. I stood in front of the pack and told them you were dead, because that's what I believed. That's what made sense. Arianeth Vane, my third in command, my best tracker, my... He stopped himself. Dead. Killed on a mission gone wrong. I held a memorial. I burned your things. I carried that weight for 3 years. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I never meant to hurt you. Then why? Theron closed the distance between them, and suddenly he was right there, close enough to touch, close enough that she could see the golden flecks in his storm gray eyes. Why, Arianeth? What could possibly make you abandon everything? Abandon me? She wanted to tell him. God, she wanted to tell him everything. But the words stuck in her throat, trapped behind 3 years of fear and guilt and shame. I can't, she whispered. Can or won't? Both. Theron's jaw clenched. She watched the muscle tick, watched him struggle to keep his alpha instincts in check. He wanted to command her. She could feel it. The wolf in him wanted to force her submission, force the truth from her lips. But he didn't, because that wasn't who Theron Ashcroft was. He'd never used his power against his own people, never forced obedience through dominance alone. He led through respect, through trust, through love, and she'd broken all of it. There are things you don't know, Arianeth said carefully, choosing each word like stepping through a minefield. Things I can't tell you, not because I don't want to, but because telling you would put you in danger. I'm an alpha, Arianeth. Danger is part of the job description. Not this kind of danger. Then tell me what kind. Theron reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. Let me help you. Whatever it is, whatever you're running from, you don't have to do it alone. The touch nearly broke her. 3 years. 3 years without a pack. Without family. Without him. She'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. To be known. I can't drag you into this, she breathed. I won't. You already did. The moment you walked away, you dragged me into it. I've spent 1,000 nights wondering what I did wrong. What I missed. How I failed you. You didn't fail me. The words burst out before she could stop them. Theron, you didn't fail anyone. This wasn't about you. It was about me. About a choice I had to make. What choice? She pulled back from his touch, needing the distance to think clearly. I can't. A sound outside. Subtle. Most humans wouldn't hear it. But Arianeth wasn't human, and neither was Theron. His head snapped toward the window, body instantly shifting into predator mode. Did you hear that? Yes. Arianeth's wolf surged forward, senses sharpening. Someone's outside. How many? She closed her eyes, listening. Heartbeats. Breathing. The shuffle of feet on gravel. 3. Maybe 4. Yours. I don't have a pack. Mine. Did you bring backup? Theron's expression darkened. No. I came alone. They looked at each other. the same realization dawning. "We need to leave," Arianeth said, already grabbing her duffel. "Now." But before they could move, the window exploded inward. Glass shattered across the floor as a figure dove through, rolling to a crouch. Then another. Then a third. 3 wolves in human form, eyes glowing amber in the dim light. Rogues. The largest one, a male with a shaved head and a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, smiled. His teeth were too sharp. Well, well. Theron Ashcroft, the legendary Alpha. And his eyes slid to Arianeth. The ghost herself, Arianeth Vane. "This is our lucky day." Theron moved in front of Arianeth instinctively, shielding her with his body. "You have 5 seconds to walk away." "Or what?" The rogue laughed. "You'll kill us? You're outnumbered, Alpha. And you," he pointed at Arianeth, "you're worth more than you know." Arianeth's blood turned to ice. "What did you say?" "Someone wants to talk to you, sweetheart, and they're willing to pay a very generous bounty for your return." "Who?" Theron growled, power bleeding into his voice. "The Alpha Command." "Who sent you?" The rogue's smile widened. "Someone who's been looking for her even longer than you have." And then they attacked. The first rogue lunged at Theron, claws extending. Theron met him mid-leap, the impact shaking the cheap motel walls. They crashed into the dresser, wood splintering. The second rogue came for Arianeth. She dropped her duffel, muscle memory taking over. 3 years away from the fight didn't matter. Her body remembered. Dodge left, duck under the swipe, drive her elbow into his solar plexus. He wheezed, stumbling back. But the third rogue was already there, faster than the others. He caught her arm, twisted, slammed her into the wall hard enough to crack the drywall. Pain exploded through her shoulder. "Don't damage the merchandise," the leader barked, still grappling with Theron. "She's worth less broken." Arianeth's vision blurred. But through the haze, she saw Theron throw his opponent off and saw the alpha rage in his eyes. Saw him shift. The transformation was instantaneous. One moment, man. The next, a massive gray wolf with silver-tipped fur and eyes that glowed like molten metal. He was beautiful and terrifying. Theron's wolf tore into the closest rogue with ruthless efficiency. Blood sprayed. Screams echoed. The wolf holding Arianeth hesitated, distracted. Big mistake. Arianeth slammed her head backward, crushing his nose. He released her with a howl. She spun, grabbed the lamp from the nightstand, and smashed it across his skull. He went down. But the leader was already shifting, his body contorting into a mangy brown wolf, smaller than Theron but wiry and scarred. He leaped. Theron met him in midair, jaws snapping, claws raking. They hit the floor in a tangle of fur and fury. Arianeth's wolf begged to be released. "Let me out. Let me fight. Let me protect him." But she couldn't, because shifting meant being seen, being known, and there were secrets carved into her wolf form that Theron couldn't discover. Not yet. So she fought as a human. She grabbed the third rogue as he tried to rise, drove her knee into his gut, then delivered a vicious elbow to the back of his head. He collapsed unconscious. Theron's wolf had the leader pinned, jaws locked around his throat. Not biting. Not yet. Just holding. "Shift," Theron commanded, his voice distorted by the wolf form, but no less powerful. Now, the rogue shifted back, gasping, bleeding from a dozen wounds. "You're making a mistake. Alpha, who sent you?" I can't." Theron's jaws tightened. Blood welled. "Last chance." The rogue's eyes flicked to Arianeth, something like pity crossing his face. "She knows. Ask her about the Bloodstone covenant." Arianeth's world tilted. No. No, no, no. Theron's wolf released the rogue, who scrambled back, clutching his throat. But the Alpha's eyes, glowing and ancient, turned to Arianeth. And in them, she saw the question, the demand, the truth he would no longer accept being denied. The rogue laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "You didn't tell him, did you?" The great Arianeth Vane, keeping secrets from her Alpha. "Get out," Arianeth said coldly. "All of you, before I change my mind about letting you live." The leader looked at Theron, as if asking permission. Theron shifted back to human form, standing naked and blood-streaked in the ruins of the motel room. He didn't look away from Arianeth. Go, and tell whoever sent you that if they come for her again, I'll burn their entire operation to ash. The rogues didn't need to be told twice. They fled, dragging their unconscious companion. Silence fell. Theron stood there, breathing hard, his gray eyes locked on Arianeth. The Bloodstone Covenant, he said quietly. What is it? Arianeth's hands shook. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold. Theron. What? Is it? That's the reason I left. Her voice cracked. It's the reason I can never come back. Explain. She laughed, a broken sound. You want the truth? Fine. Here it is. She met his eyes, letting him see the devastation in hers. 3 years ago, I made a deal. My life for yours. My freedom for the pack's safety. I swore a blood oath to an enemy you can't fight, Theron. And if I break it, everyone I love dies. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Theron stared at her, processing, understanding, and then rage. Who? He growled. Who did you make this deal with? Arianeth closed her eyes. Your brother. Chapter 3. Blood and Ash. The word hung in the air like poison. Brother. Theron didn't move, didn't breathe. For a long moment, he simply stood there, naked and blood-streaked in the wreckage of the motel room, his eyes fixed on Arianeth with an intensity that made her want to crawl out of her own skin. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Darius is dead. No, Arianeth said softly. He's not. I killed him myself. 3 years ago. I watched him fall. I watched the light leave his eyes. You watched him fall, Arianeth corrected, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. You didn't stay to confirm the body. Theron's jaw clenched so hard she heard his teeth grind. The cliff was 300 feet. He went over backward. No wolf survives that fall. Most wolves don't. She met his gaze, unflinching. But Darius wasn't like most wolves. You know that better than anyone. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Darius Ashcroft, Theron's younger brother, born 11 months apart, raised as rivals, destined to tear each other apart. One became an alpha, strong and just beloved by his pack. The other became a monster, twisted by ambition and rage, willing to burn the world to claim what he believed was his birthright. The Silvercrest Pack. 3 years ago, Darius had attempted a coup. He'd allied with rogues, poisoned half the council, and challenged Theron for leadership in front of the entire pack. The fight had been brutal, bloody. It ended on a cliff overlooking the Silvercrest territory, with Theron standing over his brother's broken body. And then Darius had fallen. Theron had returned to the pack alone, carrying the weight of fratricide like a stone in his chest. But if Arianeth was telling the truth, where? Theron's voice was deadly calm now. The kind of calm that preceded violence. Where is he? I don't know. Liar. I'm not lying. Arianeth's composure cracked. I don't know where he is, Theron. That's the whole point. The covenant binds me to silence. I can't seek him out. I can't warn you when he moves. I can't do anything except stay away. Theron grabbed his jeans from the floor, yanking them on with sharp, angry movements. Start from the beginning. Tell me everything. Arianeth sank onto the bed, exhaustion finally catching up to her. The adrenaline from the fight was fading, leaving behind bone-deep weariness. After the fall, she began, her voice distant, I went to confirm he was dead. You'd sent me and Kellen to make sure. We climbed down the ravine, expecting to find a body. And he was gone. There was blood. A lot of it. But nobody. She looked up at Theron. We followed the trail. It led to a cave system that ran beneath the mountain. And there we found him. Theron's hands curled into fists. How bad? Bad. Multiple fractures. Internal bleeding. One lung collapsed. He should have been dead. She paused. But he was conscious. And he was smiling. Smiling. He said he knew we'd come. Said he was counting on it. Arianeth's voice dropped. He told me he had allies. Powerful ones. Wolves who wanted to see you fall. And if I didn't help him escape, if I didn't swear to keep his survival secret, he'd send them after the pack. After your sister. After everyone. Theron's eyes flashed gold. Evadne, Arianeth nodded. He had specific plans for her. Detailed. He described exactly what his allies would do. How they'd take her. How long they'd make it last. Her voice shook. I've seen a lot of evil, Theron. But the way he talked about hurting her, his own blood. So you made a deal. Kellen was injured. The rogues had ambushed us on the way down. I couldn't fight them all and protect him and stop Darius from escaping. I had. She swallowed hard. I had to choose. You chose to betray me. The words were a knife between her ribs. I chose to save your sister, Arianeth corrected, her eyes burning. I chose to keep the pack safe. Darius laid out the terms. I helped him escape. I swear a blood oath never to reveal his survival. I leave the Silvercrest pack and never return. In exchange, he'd disappear. He'd leave the pack alone. He'd let you all live. And you believed him? No. She laughed bitterly. But I had no choice. It was that or watch him send an army of rogues to slaughter everyone I loved. Theron paced the small room like a caged predator. The blood oath. How binding? Absolute. We invoke the old magic. The kind that predates pacts, predates civilization. If I break the Covenant's terms, if I seek him out or warn you of his movements, the oath will kill me. And then, she met his eyes. He'll consider the deal broken. He'll come for the pack. So you've been running. Alone. For 3 years. Not running. Hiding. There's a difference. Arianeth stood, moving to the shattered window. Cool night air drifted in, carrying the scent of pine and rain. I've stayed off the grid. No pack affiliations. No connections. Just existing. Trying to stay invisible. Until I found you. Until you found me, she echoed softly. Theron came to stand beside her, close but not touching. They stared out at the parking lot, at the neon sign flickering against the darkness. Kellen, Theron said suddenly. You mentioned Kellen was with you. Arianeth's expression shuddered. Yes, he came back to the pack. Told me you'd both been ambushed. Said you died protecting him from rogues. Theron turned to face her. He lied to you. I made him promise. He didn't want to. But I told him. It was the only way to keep everyone safe. Where is he now? Still with the pack, I assume. Unless. She frowned. Why? Because 2 months ago, Kellen disappeared. Left in the middle of the night. No note. No explanation. Theron's eyes narrowed. Just like you. Arianeth's stomach dropped. No. He wouldn't. Wouldn't what? Keep more secrets? Make more deals? Theron's voice was sharp. You left me blind, Arianeth. You took away my ability to protect my own people. And now one of my wolves is missing, and I have no idea if it's connected to you, to Darius, or to something else entirely. Guilt twisted in her chest. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back 3 years. Sorry doesn't undo the damage. I know. They fell into heavy silence. Outside, a car pulled into the parking lot. An elderly couple climbed out, laughing about something, completely oblivious to the violence that had just unfolded in room 12. Normal people. Normal lives. Things Arianeth would never have. Those rogues tonight, Theron said, his tone shifting to business. They knew who you were. They said someone put a bounty on you. I know. Darius? Maybe. Or someone else who knows about the Covenant. She rubbed her temples. I've been careful. I've covered my tracks. But if word got out that I'm the key to finding Darius Ashcroft, every rogue and mercenary in North America would be hunting you. Yes. Theron was quiet for a long moment. Then, decisively, pack your things. You're coming with me. Arianeth blinked. What? You heard me. We're leaving. Now. Theron, I can't. You can't stay here. You've been compromised. Those rogues will report back to whoever hired them. By morning, this place will be swarming. He grabbed his shirt from the floor, pulling it on. You want to keep running alone, fine. But you'll be dead within a week. The Covenant says you can't return to Silvercrest territory. Fine. We won't go there. He picked up her duffel, tossing it to her. But you're not doing this alone anymore. I won't allow it. You won't allow it? Anger sparked in her chest. You're not my alpha, Theron. Not anymore. Then consider me a very persistent friend. We were never friends. The words came out harsher than she intended. Theron stilled. His eyes met hers, and in them she saw the flash of old pain. Old longing. No, he agreed softly. We weren't. The air between them thickened with unspoken history. Before Arianeth left, before the lies and the running and the secrets, there had been something else. Something that had terrified them both because it was powerful and dangerous and completely forbidden. An alpha couldn't love his third in command, couldn't show favoritism, couldn't blur the lines between duty and desire. So they buried it, pretended it didn't exist. And then she'd left, and Theron had spent 3 years convincing himself it had never been real. But standing here in this ruined motel room, with her scent filling his lungs and her eyes locked on his, he knew it had always been real. We need to go, Theron said, his voice rough. Grab your things. I have a truck parked 2 blocks over. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Somewhere Darius won't think to look. He moved toward the door, then paused. Do you trust me, Arianeth? She should say no. Should tell him to leave, to go back to his pack, to forget he ever found her. But the truth was, yes, she whispered. I trust you. Theron's expression softened, just for a moment. Then the alpha mask slid back into place. Then let's move. We've got a 6-hour drive ahead of us. Where? He looked back at her, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. To see the one person who might know how to break a blood oath. Arianeth's eyes widened. Theron, that's impossible. The old magic doesn't. There's someone. A witch. She lives in the Appalachian territory, operates outside pack law, answers to no one. He held the door open. If anyone can help us, it's her. A witch. Arianeth shouldered her duffel. You want to trust our lives to a witch. I want to trust our lives to each other. The witch is just insurance. He stepped out into the night. Arianeth followed, her heart pounding. Behind them, the motel room lay in ruins. Blood on the carpet. Glass on the floor. The scent of violence lingering in the air. A fitting metaphor for everything they'd become. But as they walked through the darkness, side by side, something shifted. The bond between them, dormant for 3 years, began to hum again. Quiet, tentative, alive. And in the shadows at the edge of the parking lot, a figure watched them leave. Tall, silent, his eyes glowing amber in the darkness. Kellen, Theron's missing wolf. He pulled out a phone, typed a single message, and hit send. She's with him, moving north, just like you predicted. The reply came instantly. Good. Let them run. The witch won't help them. No one breaks the old magic. And when they realize that, a pause. Then the real game begins. Stay close. Don't let them see you. And Kellen, when the time comes, you know what to do. Kellen stared at the message. Then the 2 figures disappear into the night. His alpha, his friend, and the female he'd helped destroy. I'm sorry, he whispered to the darkness, but I don't have a choice. He pocketed the phone and melted into the shadows. Chapter 4. The Road to Redemption. The truck was old. A 1987 Ford F-150 with rust eating through the wheel wells and a passenger door that didn't quite close right. But the engine purred like a contented wolf, and the interior smelled like leather and pine. Like Theron, Arianeth sat in the passenger seat, her duffel at her feet, watching the yellow line of the highway disappear beneath them. The clock on the dashboard read 11:47 p.m. They'd been driving for 2 hours in near silence. The only sound the rumble of the engine and the occasional rush of wind through Arianeth's partially open window. She couldn't close it completely. I needed the fresh air. I needed the space. Being this close to Theron after 3 years was overwhelming. Every breath she took carried his scent. Every glance showed her the tension in his jaw, the white-knuckle grip on the steering wheel, the way his eyes kept flicking to the rearview mirror, checking for threats. Always vigilant. Always the alpha. You should sleep, Theron said, breaking the silence. His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it in hours. We won't stop until dawn. I'm fine. You're exhausted. I can hear your heartbeat. It's been erratic for the last 30 miles. Arianeth turned to look at him. Since when do you monitor my heartbeat? Since always. He didn't take his eyes off the road. You think I didn't notice? Even when you were in the pack, I could always find you in a crowd. Could always tell when you were stressed, scared, hurt. His jaw tightened. Could always tell when you were lying. The accusation sat between them like a third passenger. I never lied to you, Arianeth said quietly. Not about the things that mattered. You let me think you were dead. For 3 years, he finally looked at her, and the raw pain in his eyes made her chest constrict. That's not a lie. It was protection. It was cowardice. The word hit like a slap. Arianeth's temper flared. Cowardice? I sacrificed everything to keep your pack safe. I gave up my home, my family, she cut herself off. I made the hardest choice of my life, and you call it cowardice? You made a choice without me, Theron countered, his voice rising. You decided, all on your own, that you knew better than your alpha, that you had the right to make deals with my enemies, to walk away from your pack, from your oath. I had no choice. There's always a choice. Not when it's your sister's life on the line. Arianeth shouted, her composure finally shattering. Not when Darius described in vivid detail exactly how he'd torture her, how he'd break her, how he'd use her to destroy you from the inside out. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. So yes, I made a choice, and I'd make it again, every single time. The truck swerved slightly as Theron's hands tightened on the wheel. He said nothing for a long moment, just breathed hard through his nose, wrestling with emotions Arianeth could feel radiating off him in waves. Finally, he pulled the truck onto the shoulder of the highway and threw it into park. Get out, he said. Arianeth blinked. What? Get out of the truck. Theron. Now. His alpha command rolled through the cab like thunder. Arianeth's wolf responded instinctively, the urge to obey almost overwhelming. But she'd spent 3 years learning to resist that pull. She opened the door and stepped out into the cool night air. Theron rounded the front of the truck, his movements sharp and controlled. Too controlled, like he was holding himself back from something violent. They stood facing each other on the empty highway, the headlights casting long shadows across the asphalt. You want to know what the hardest part was? Theron said, his voice low and dangerous. It wasn't losing a soldier. It wasn't losing my third in command. It was losing you. Arianeth's breath caught. I spent 5 years fighting next to you, he continued, stepping closer. 5 years watching you, learning you, trusting you with things I'd never trust anyone else with. You were the one person I could be honest with. The one person who saw past the alpha, past the responsibility, past all of it. He stopped inches from her. And then you were gone. And I had to stand in front of my pack and pretend I was fine. Pretend I hadn't just lost the only person who ever really understood me. Theron. Her voice broke. You talk about choices, Arianeth. About sacrifices. But did you ever stop to think what your choice did to me? Did you ever consider that maybe, just maybe, I would have chosen differently if you'd given me the chance? You would have chosen to fight Darius, to hunt him down, and he would have destroyed the pack out of spite. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Because I know him. And I know you. She reached out, her hand hovering over his chest. You would have chosen honor over safety. Vengeance over survival. That's who you are, Theron. That's what makes you a good alpha. Her hand dropped. But it's also what would have gotten everyone killed. He stared at her, chest heaving. So you made the choice for me? Yes. Took away my agency. Yes. Decided my sister's life was worth more than the truth. Yes. Arianeth met his eyes, unflinching. And I'd do it again. Because she's alive. Because the pack is safe. Because you're standing here, whole and healthy, instead of buried next to the ashes of everything you've built. Theron's control finally snapped. He grabbed her, hands fisting in her sweater, and yanked her against him. For a wild moment, Arianeth thought he might shake her, might finally unleash the rage she could feel coiled in every muscle. Instead, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle, wasn't tender. It was 3 years of grief and fury and desperate, aching longing poured into a single point of contact. Arianeth gasped against his mouth, and Theron took the opportunity to deepen the kiss, one hand sliding into her hair, the other wrapping around her waist, pulling her impossibly closer. She should push him away. should remind him that this was exactly why she'd left. Because whatever existed between them was dangerous and complicated and could never work. But God help her, she couldn't. She kissed him back with equal desperation, her hands fisting in his shirt, 3 years of loneliness and isolation and bone-deep longing crashing over her like a wave. He tasted like coffee and anger and home. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Theron rested his forehead against hers. I hate you, he whispered. I know. I hate that you left. I hate that you're back. I hate that even after everything, he cut himself off, jaw clenching. Still what? Arianeth breathed. But Theron didn't answer. He just pulled back, his hand sliding from her body, leaving her cold. Get in the truck, he said, his voice carefully neutral. We need to keep moving. Arianeth wanted to argue, wanted to demand he finish that sentence. But the walls had slammed back into place, the alpha mask firmly in position. She climbed back into the passenger seat. Theron started the engine, merged back onto the highway, and they drove. But something had shifted. The air between them was charged now, crackling with tension that had nothing to do with anger and everything to do with the thing they'd both been avoiding for 5 years. The bond. Not a mate bond, but something close. Something that terrified them both because it was powerful and consuming and completely impossible. Alphas didn't fall in love with their subordinates. Soldiers didn't fall in love with their commanders. But hearts didn't follow pack law. And wolves mated for life. Tell me about the witch, Arianeth said after another 20 miles of silence. Anything to break the tension. How do you know her? Theron's expression was unreadable. I don't. Not personally. Then how? My mother knew her. Before she died. He glanced at Arianeth. They were friends. Or as close to friends as a pack Luna and a solitary witch can be. Arianeth had never met Theron's mother. Elena Ashcroft had died when Theron was 19, killed in a rogue attack that had also claimed his father. It was the event that had forced Theron to become alpha years before he was ready. What was her name? Arianeth asked. The witch. Varia. Varia Nightshade. Nightshade. Arianeth frowned. That's a dark family line. The darkest. Her bloodline goes back to the original covens. Before the schism. Before witches and wolves became enemies. Theron's hands flexed on the wheel. My mother said Varia was the most powerful witch on the East Coast. Maybe in all of North America. But she's also unstable. Unstable how? She sees things. The future. The past. Things that haven't happened yet. Things that should never happen. He paused. My mother said being around Varia was like standing next to a live wire. You never knew if she'd help you or curse you on a whim. And you want to take me to this woman. I want to save you. If that means dealing with an unstable witch, so be it. Arianeth studied his profile in the dim light of the dashboard. Why? Why what? Why do you care? I betrayed you. I lied to you. I walked away. You should hate me. I told you. I do hate you. You kissed me. That was a mistake. Was it? Theron's jaw clenched. Yes. Liar. He didn't respond. But Arianeth saw the muscle tick in his cheek, saw his hands tighten on the wheel. You can't save me, Theron, she said softly. The blood oath is unbreakable. Even if Varia tries, even if she has the power, the old magic will fight back. It could kill me. Kill her. Maybe even kill you just for being nearby. Then we'll find another way. There is no other way. There's always another way. He looked at her, and the fierce determination in his eyes made her chest ache. I didn't spend 3 years searching for you just to watch you die because of some archaic magical contract. I will break this covenant, Arianeth, one way or another. And if you can't, then I'll learn to live with it. But you won't be alone anymore. That ends now. Tears burned behind Arianeth's eyes. You're infuriating. You're stubborn. We're a terrible match. The worst. But they both smiled. Small. Tentative. Real. The highway stretched out before them, endless and dark. Somewhere ahead lay a witch who might help them or might curse them. Somewhere behind them, rogues were hunting. And somewhere in between, Darius Ashcroft was watching, waiting, planning. But for now, at this moment, it was just the two of them. And that would have to be enough. Theron, Arianeth said after another mile. Yeah. Thank you for not giving up on me. He was quiet for a long moment. Then I couldn't, even when I wanted to, even when it would have been easier. He glanced at her. Your pack, Arianeth, and I won't abandon my pack. I'm not back anymore. The oath severed those ties. The oath can go to hell. His voice was firm. Absolute. You'll always be back to me. Arianeth turned away, looking out the window so he wouldn't see the tears finally spilling down her cheeks. Because that was the cruelest kindness of all. Being claimed by an alpha she could never truly belong to. Being loved by a man she could never allow herself to love back. The road stretched on, and behind them, in a stolen sedan with its headlights off, Kellen followed at a careful distance. His phone buzzed. Don't lose them. The witch is more important than you know. Kellen stared at the message, then at the taillights ahead. I'm sorry, Theron, he whispered to the darkness, but some debts can only be paid in blood. He pressed down on the accelerator and followed his alpha into the night. Chapter 5. The Witch of Raven Hollow. Dawn broke over the Appalachian Mountains like a wound, all crimson and gold bleeding across the sky. Arianeth woke to the sensation of stillness. No engine rumble, no road vibration, just silence and the smell of morning dew mixed with wood smoke. She blinked, disoriented. The last thing she remembered was watching the sunrise paint the mountains purple. Theron's voice low and steady as he told her stories about his mother, his childhood, the years before everything became complicated. She must have fallen asleep. Now she was covered with Theron's leather jacket, the worn material still warm from his body. The truck was parked in a small clearing surrounded by towering pines, and through the windshield, she could see a cabin. No, not a cabin. A house. Small and crooked, like something out of a dark fairy tale. It leaned slightly to the left, its walls covered in moss and climbing ivy. The windows were shuttered, but smoke curled from a stone chimney, and strange symbols were carved into the wooden frame of the door. Warding marks. Old ones. The driver's seat was empty. Arianeth's heart kicked into overdrive. She threw off the jacket and scrambled out of the truck, her hand instinctively going to the knife strapped to her ankle. Theron, she called, her voice cutting through the morning quiet. Over here. She spun. Theron stood at the edge of the clearing, his back to her, staring at something in the trees. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, his hair disheveled from running his hands through it too many times. How long was I asleep? Arianeth asked, joining him. 4 hours. Maybe 5. He didn't look at her. You needed it. You should have woken me. We could have taken shifts. I'm fine. You're a terrible liar. That earned her the ghost of a smile, but it faded quickly as he gestured toward the tree line. Look. Arianeth followed his gaze and felt her blood run cold. Hanging from the branches of every tree surrounding the clearing were bones. Animal bones, mostly. Deer skulls. Bird skeletons. But also other things. Dolls made of straw and hair. Bundles of dried herbs tied with red string. Glass bottles filled with dark liquid. And in the center of it all, carved into the largest oak tree, was a message. Turn back or pay the price. Welcome, Arianeth muttered. She knows we're here. Theron's voice was grim. Probably knew the moment we crossed into her territory. Then why the theatrics? Testing us. Seeing if we scare easily. Do we? Theron looked at her then, his gray eyes steady. We've faced worse than a witch's decorations. Have we? Before he could answer, the door to the crooked house creaked open. A woman emerged. She was tall and willowy, with skin the color of aged mahogany and hair so white it seemed to glow in the morning light. She wore layers of flowing fabric in deep purples and blacks, and her feet were bare despite the cold ground. Her face was ageless, could have been 30 or 300, and her eyes were entirely black. No whites, no iris, just endless, fathomless darkness. Theron Ashcroft, she said, her voice like wine through dead leaves. Elena's son. You have your mother's eyes. Stormy, troubled. She tilted her head, studying him. But your father's rage. Interesting. Varia Nightshade. Theron said carefully, respectfully. Thank you for seeing us. I didn't say I'd see you. I said you could come. Her black eyes shifted to Arianeth. And you brought, oh. She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, this is delicious. The Oathbreaker and the broken-hearted Alpha. What a pair you make. Arianeth's hand tightened on her knife. I haven't broken any oath. Not yet, but you will. Varia descended the creaking steps of her porch, moving with an otherworldly grace. That's why you're here, isn't it? You want me to sever the blood covenant, to free you from Darius Ashcroft's chains. Can you do it? Theron asked, stepping slightly in front of Arianeth. Protective. Even now, Varia circled them like a predator, studying them from every angle. Can I? Yes. The question is, should I? Blood oaths are sealed for a reason. They bind not just the swearer, but the fabric of fate itself. Breaking one tears holes in reality. Creates consequences. What kind of consequences? Arianeth asked. The unpredictable kind. Varia stopped in front of her, so close Arianeth could see her own reflection in those endless black eyes. Tell me, little wolf, what did you promise in exchange for your silence? My life for the pack's safety, my exile for their protection. And what did Darius promise in return? Arianeth hesitated. That he would leave them alone, that he wouldn't seek revenge. Lies. Varia's smile was sharp. Darius Ashcroft has never honored a promise in his miserable existence. Why would he start now? The magic binds him too, Theron interjected. A blood oath works both ways. Does it? Varia turned to him. Are you certain? Did you witness the ritual? Did you see the exchange of blood, the sealing of terms, the binding of souls? Theron looked at Arianeth. Did anyone else witness it? Just Kellen, Arianeth said quietly, and he was unconscious for most of it. Varia laughed again, that terrible glass-breaking sound. Oh, child, you foolish, noble child. Darius didn't bind himself. He bound you. A one-way oath. All sacrifice, no insurance. The words hit Arianeth like a physical blow. No, that's not. He swore on the old magic. He swore on his own version of it. Twisted. Corrupted. Varia began to pace, her bare feet leaving no prints in the dirt. Blood magic is neutral. It takes intention and shapes it into reality. But intention can be deceptive. He made you believe it was a mutual binding when in truth, he simply chained you to silence while keeping himself free to do whatever he pleased. Arianeth felt the ground tilt beneath her. Then the pack, they're not safe. They've never been safe. Not from Darius, no. 3 years. Her voice shook. I've been hiding for 3 years for nothing. Not nothing. Theron's hand found hers, squeezed hard. You're alive. That counts for something. Does it? Arianeth pulled away, anger and despair warring in her chest. I abandoned everyone I loved based on a lie. I let you mourn me, let the pack think I was dead. All because I thought she couldn't finish. The weight of it was too much. Varia watched her with those unsettling black eyes. The question becomes, what will you do now? Now that you know the truth. Break the oath, Theron said immediately. Free her. Let us fight Darius on equal ground. Breaking it could kill her. Then we'll risk it. No. Arianeth's voice was sharp. We won't. Arianeth. I'm not dying because of Darius's manipulation. There has to be another way. There is, Varia said softly. Both wolves turned to look at her. But you won't like it. Tell us, Theron demanded. The witch smiled, and it was the smile of a creature that had seen empires rise and fall, that had witnessed horrors beyond mortal comprehension. The oath can be broken by one of 3 methods, she said, holding up 3 fingers. First, the death of the one who holds the other end. Kill Darius. The magic dies with him. We can't find him, Arianeth said. The oath prevents me from seeking him out. Second, a willing sacrifice. Someone else takes your place in the binding. Assume your oath, your burden, your consequences. Theron's expression hardened. I'll do it. No, Arianeth snapped. Absolutely not. It's the logical choice. It's a suicide mission. If I can't break the oath without dying, what makes you think you can carry it without the same result? Because I'm an alpha. I'm stronger. You're an idiot. Varia cleared her throat. If you two are finished arguing, there is a third option. They both looked at her. You complete the bond Darius tried to create, but you complete it correctly, with full knowledge, full consent, and... She paused. her black eyes glittering with dark amusement. With a mate. Silence fell over the clearing. What? Arianeth breathed. The blood oath was designed to be a mate bond. Twisted, yes. Corrupted, absolutely. But at its core, it's a connection between two souls. Varia gestured between them. If you were to form a true mate bond with someone else, someone whose claim is stronger, older, more primal than Darius's magic, the false bond would shatter. Like light burning through shadow. Theron's eyes widened. You're saying if Arianeth found her true mate, the covenant would break. Completely. Irrevocably. Varia's smile widened. Of course, finding one's true mate is rare. Most wolves spend their entire lives searching. And forcing a mate bond that isn't genuine would only make things worse. Arianeth's heart was pounding. How do you know if it's genuine? You know. Varia's black eyes bored into hers. Deep in your soul, in the part of you that's pure wolf, pure instinct, you know. The air between Arianeth and Theron suddenly felt charged, heavy with words neither of them dared speak. There must be another way, Arianeth said, her voice hoarse. There isn't. Varia turned, heading back toward her crooked house. Those are your options. Choose wisely. Or don't choose at all and spend the rest of your short life running from the shadows. Wait, Theron called after her. If we choose the mate bond option, what do we need to do? Varia paused at her door. Complete the bond. Fully. Blood to blood. Soul to soul. Mark and be marked. And it must be genuine, born of true feeling, true connection. The old magic can sense deception. If you try to fake it, you'll both die screaming. How long do we have? Arianeth asked. To decide. Until Darius decides he's tired of playing games. Until those rogues report back to whoever hired them. Until Kellen, she stopped, her head tilting as if listening to something only she could hear. Ah, speaking of which, she pointed toward the tree line. Both Theron and Arianeth turned. A figure emerged from the shadows between the pines. Kellen. He looked terrible, gaunt with dark circles under his eyes and clothes that hadn't been changed in days. But it was him, Theron's missing wolf. Kellen. Theron's voice was a mixture of relief and suspicion. What are you doing here? Kellen's eyes were haunted. I'm sorry, Alpha. I'm so sorry. Sorry for what? Kellen raised his hand. In it was a phone, and on the screen was a live video feed of the Silvercrest pack house, of Evadne, Theron's sister, being dragged from her bedroom by 3 wolves in tactical gear. No, Theron breathed. Kellen's voice broke. He said, if I didn't lead you here, if I didn't make sure you were far away from the territory, he'd kill her. He'd kill all of them. The phone speaker crackled to life, and Darius Ashcroft's voice, smooth and poison-sweet, filled the clearing. Hello, brother. I believe it's time we had a family reunion. Chapter 6. The Devil's Bargain. The world narrowed to a single point. The phone in Kellen's trembling hand. The grainy video feed. Evadne's face, pale with terror, as rough hands forced her to her knees in the grand hall of the Silvercrest pack house. Theron's pack house. His home. Let me see her, Theron said, his voice deadly calm. The kind of calm that preceded absolute violence. Put her on screen. Now. The camera shifted, jerky and unstable, until Evadne's face filled the frame. She was 23, with Theron's dark hair and their mother's gentle eyes. Eyes that were now wide with fear, but also anger. She wasn't crying. I wasn't begging. That was Evadne. Strong, even when the world was collapsing around her. Theron. Her voice crackled through the speaker. Don't, whatever he wants, don't. A hand yanked her head back by her hair. She gasped but didn't scream. Darius's laugh echoed through the phone. Still so brave, little sister. That's adorable. Let's see how long that lasts. Theron's hands clenched into fists, claws extending, piercing his own palms. Blood dripped onto the ground. I swear to God, Darius, if you hurt her. You'll what? Hunt me down? Kill me. Darius's voice was mocking. You already tried that, brother. Threw me off a cliff, left me for dead. And yet, here I am, alive, thriving, planning. What do you want? What I've always wanted. The Silvercrest pack. My birthright. The throne you stole from me. You tried to murder half the council. You allied with rogues. I did what was necessary to claim what's mine. Darius's voice hardened. And now I'm giving you a choice, Theron. A very simple choice. The camera panned across the grand hall. 20 wolves, maybe more, all bearing the mark of rogues, all armed with silver-edged weapons, surrounded a group of huddled pack members. Arianeth recognized some of them. Elders, mothers with children, Theron's inner circle. All hostages. Here are the terms, Darius continued, his tone businesslike now. You have 24 hours to return to Silvercrest territory. Alone. Unarmed. You will formally abdicate your position as Alpha and acknowledge me as the rightful leader. You will submit to a pack judgment for the crime of attempted fratricide. Pack judgment. Theron's voice was flat. You mean execution. Semantics. The point is, you come home, you surrender, and everyone lives. Your sister, your pack, even that traitorous little wolf standing next to you right now. Arianeth's blood turned to ice. Oh yes, Arianeth. I know you're there. I've always known. Darius laughed. Did you really think I didn't have eyes on you this whole time? That I didn't know exactly where my little oathbound wolf was hiding? You son of a... Arianeth started forward, but Theron caught her arm. If he comes alone, Arianeth said, forcing herself to speak calmly, how do we know you'll honor your word? You've never honored anything in your life. True, but I'm not unreasonable. The camera shifted back to Evadne. I'll release 10 hostages for every hour Theron delays. By the time 24 hours pass, they'll all be free. Except sweet Evadne, of course. She stays until Theron arrives. Insurance. And if he doesn't come, Arianeth demanded, then I start sending pieces of his sister back to him. 1 finger per hour. I'm told she plays piano. Play, I suppose, after I'm done. Evadne's face remained defiant, but Arianeth saw the flash of terror in her eyes. Theron's entire body vibrated with barely contained rage. You're a coward, Darius, hiding behind hostages. If you want the pack, challenge me properly. Face me in single combat like the old laws dictate. The old laws? Darius's voice dripped with contempt. The old laws also said the firstborn son inherits leadership. But you twisted that, didn't you? Convinced the council that strength mattered more than birthright. Well, brother, I'm using your own logic against you. Strength isn't in claws and teeth. It's in strategy, in leverage. And right now I have all the leverage. Theron was silent, his mind clearly racing through options, strategies, ways to turn this around. Arianeth knew what he was thinking. He was going to go. He was going to surrender himself to save them. No, she said quietly. Theron looked at her, his gray eyes tortured. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not when it's my sister's life. The terrible irony wasn't lost on either of them. Arianeth had said the same thing 3 years ago when she made her deal with Darius. 24 hours, Theron, Darius said cheerfully. The clock starts now. Oh, and one more thing. If I catch even a whiff of the council guard, if you call for backup from allied packs, if you bring anyone with you besides your own guilty conscience, I'll kill them all. Every single wolf in this house. Starting with Evadne. The video feed cut to Evadne one last time. She looked directly into the camera, directly at her brother, and mouthed 2 words. Don't come. Then the screen went black. Kellen dropped the phone like it had burned him. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. He has my sister too. He said if I didn't. Theron moved faster than Arianeth had ever seen him move. One moment he was standing beside her, the next he had Kellen by the throat, slammed against a tree, his eyes blazing gold. You led us here, Theron snarled, his voice more wolf than man. You followed us, reported our movements. How long, Kellen? How long have you been working for him? Since Kellen choked, clawing at Theron's hand. Since he took Mira. 2 months ago. He's had her for 2 months. Your sister. Understanding dawned in Theron's eyes. That's why you left the pack. He sent me proof. Photos. Videos of what they were doing to her. Tears streamed down Kellen's face. I had to. I had to protect her. Just like you have to protect Evadne. Just like Arianeth had to. His eyes found hers. We're all trapped. All of us. He's been planning this for years. Theron released him. Kellen collapsed to the ground, gasping. We have to go back, Theron said, turning to Arianeth. His face was set, determined. Now, it's a trap. I know. He'll kill you the moment you surrender. Probably. Then we don't go. Arianeth grabbed his arm. We find another way. There is no other way. Theron's composure finally cracked. He has my sister. He has my pack. What am I supposed to do? Let them die while I run? You're supposed to be smarter than walking into an obvious execution. Then what do you suggest? He rounded on her, pain and rage warring in his eyes. Tell me, Arianeth, what's your brilliant plan? Because from where I'm standing, my only choice is surrender or watch everyone I love die. Arianeth opened her mouth. I closed it, because she didn't have an answer. She'd made the same impossible choice 3 years ago, and it had solved nothing. There is another option, Varia said quietly. They'd both forgotten the witch was there, standing on her porch, watching the drama unfold with those endless black eyes. What option? Theron demanded. Varia descended the steps slowly, deliberately. You give Darius what he wants. Just not the way he expects. I'm not following. He wants you to surrender, to abdicate, to acknowledge him as alpha. Varia's smile was sharp, but he never specified you had to do it in person. Arianeth's eyes widened. A proxy? Precisely. Varia looked at Theron. The old laws allow for a champion to stand in an alpha's place during challenges. It's archaic, rarely used, but still legally binding. You send someone to negotiate on your behalf. Someone who can buy you time, assess the situation, perhaps even create an opening for a counterattack, Arianeth finished. Her mind was already racing through possibilities. But who? Darius knows all of Theron's inner circle. Anyone from Silvercrest would be recognized immediately. Not anyone from Silvercrest. Various black eyes are fixed on Arianeth. Someone he believes is still bound by oath. Someone he thinks is powerless. Leashed. No threat to him whatsoever. Theron shook his head. Absolutely not. I'm not sending Arianeth into. I'm going. Arianeth's voice was firm. It's the only way. He'll kill you. He needs me alive. At least for now. She turned to Varia. The oath, can you weaken it? Even temporarily? Give me enough freedom to act without it killing me. Varia tilted her head, considering. I can blur the edges. Create ambiguity in the terms. It won't break the bond, but it will give you room to maneuver. For a price. Name it. A favor. Unspecified. To be called upon at a time of my choosing. Arianeth didn't hesitate. Done. Arianeth, Theron started. We don't have time to debate this. She faced him fully. You can't go. He'll kill you the moment you cross into pack territory. But me? I'm already a ghost to him. Already broken. He won't see me as a threat until it's too late. And if it goes wrong, if he doesn't buy it, then I improvise. It's what I do best. Theron stared at her for a long moment, 100 arguments dying on his lips. Because deep down he knew she was right. I hate this, he said finally. I know. If anything happens to you. It won't. She placed her hand over his heart, feeling it race beneath her palm. Trust me. One more time. His hand covered hers. I've never stopped trusting you. That's the problem. Varia clapped her hands once, breaking the moment. Touching. Truly. But if we're going to do this, we need to move. I'll need to prepare the ritual. And you, she pointed at Theron, you need to gather allies. Real ones. The kind Darius won't see coming. Who? Theron asked. There are still wolves who remember the old ways, who believe in honor over power. Find them, rally them, and be ready to move the moment Arianeth creates an opening. Kellen struggled to his feet, wiping blood from his mouth. I can help. I know the layout of the house, the guard rotations, where he's keeping the hostages. You've lost the right to help, Theron said coldly. Please. Kellen's voice broke. Let me fix this. Let me save my sister. I'll do anything. Theron studied him for a long moment. If you betray us again, I won't. I swear on my life, on my sister's life, I won't. Fine, but you stay with me, where I can watch you. Kellen nodded, relief flooding his face. Arianeth turned to Varia. How long is the ritual? An hour. maybe less. The witch's black eyes gleamed. But fair warning, child. What I'm about to do will hurt. The oath will fight back. It will try to kill you before it lets you go. I can handle pain. Can you handle dying? Arianeth thought of Evadne's terrified eyes, of the pack members huddled in fear, of 3 years spent running from a lie. Yes, she said firmly. I can handle anything if it means stopping him. Varia's smile was approving. Good. Then let's begin. She turned toward her crooked house, gesturing for Arianeth to follow. Theron caught Arianeth's hand one more time. Come back to me. It wasn't a request. It was a command, an alpha's order, but also a plea. I will, Arianeth promised. We're not done yet. You and I, we have unfinished business. Is that what we're calling it? For now. She pulled her hand free and followed Varia into the house. The door closed behind them with a sound like a coffin lid shutting. Theron stood in the clearing, Kellen silent beside him, staring at that closed door. She's going to get herself killed, Kellen said quietly. No. Theron's voice was hard. Certain. She's going to save us all. That's what she does. And if she can't, then I'll burn the world down to get her back. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. And somewhere deep in the mountains, in a pack house surrounded by enemies, Darius Ashcroft smiled, because everything was going exactly according to plan. Chapter 7. Breaking Chains. The interior of Varia's house was nothing like the exterior suggested. Outside, it was crooked, decaying, a structure that defied gravity and common sense. Inside, it was vast, impossibly vast. The space stretched far beyond what the physical dimensions should allow, rooms bleeding into rooms, hallways twisting at angles that hurt to look at. Magic. Old magic. The kind that predated wolves, predated civilization, predated everything except darkness and stars. Arianeth followed Varia down a corridor lined with shelves. On them sat jars filled with things she didn't want to identify. Organs preserved in amber liquid, teeth strung like pearls, eyes that seemed to follow her movement. Don't touch anything, Varia said without looking back. Most of it bites. Noted. They descended a spiral staircase that seemed to go down far longer than it should. When they finally reached the bottom, Arianeth found herself in a circular chamber carved from raw stone. The floor was inlaid with symbols that pulsed with faint light. In the center was a raised platform, and around it, dozens of candles flickered despite no visible draft. Strip, Varia commanded, moving to a table covered in arcane implements. Excuse me. The ritual requires skin contact, blood contact. You can keep your undergarments if modesty concerns you, but everything else needs to come off. Arianeth hesitated only a moment before pulling off her sweater and jeans. The cold air raised goosebumps on her skin, but she refused to shiver, refused to show weakness. She stood in her bra and underwear, arms at her sides, while Varia circled her like a predator. The scar, Varia said, her fingers hovering over Arianeth's left shoulder blade. May I? Arianeth nodded. Varia's touch was surprisingly gentle as she traced the crescent moon-shaped scar. This is where you took a blade meant for Evadne. 3 years before the oath. You were already protecting that family, already willing to die for them. They were my pack. Where? Varia's black eyes met hers. Or are they? I don't know anymore. Yes, you do. You've always known. Varia moved away, gathering items from her table. A bowl made of bone. A knife with a blade so black it seemed to absorb light. Bundles of herbs that smelled of earth and rot. The oath didn't sever your pack bonds, child. It only made you believe it did. Darius is clever, I'll give him that. He understood that the strongest chains aren't made of magic. They're made of guilt. Arianeth's throat tightened. He made me believe I'd endangered them by staying. And so you left. Cut yourself off. Starved the bonds until they went dormant. But dormant isn't dead. Varia began arranging candles in specific patterns around the platform. When you saw Evadne on that screen, what did you feel? Terror, rage, and the need to protect her, to save her, even though you're not packed anymore. Arianeth's hands clenched. Yes, that's the bond. That's a pack. It doesn't die just because you run from it. Varia finished her preparations and gestured to the platform. Lie down. On your back. Arianeth climbed onto the cold stone surface. Above her, the ceiling was covered in more symbols, painted in something dark and old. What happens now? She asked. Now, I blur the edges of your oath. I create space between you and Darius's binding. But the oath will resist. It will try to punish you for even attempting to break free. How? Pain. Visions. It will drag up every fear, every guilt, every moment of weakness you've ever experienced and use them against you. Varia picked up the bone knife. You'll want to scream. You'll want to beg me to stop. But you can't. If you break concentration, if you pull away from the ritual before it's complete, the backlash will kill you instantly. How long? Until it's done. Could be minutes. Could be hours. Varia's expression was grave. I need you to understand, Arianeth Vane. What I'm about to do has a very real chance of killing you. Even if you survive, you may not be the same person who lies down on this stone. Are you certain this is what you want? Arianeth thought of Theron's face, of Evadne's silent message, of 3 years spent running from a lie. I'm certain. Then close your eyes, and whatever you see, whatever you hear, remember none of it is real. It's just the oath trying to survive. Arianeth closed her eyes. She felt Varia's hand on her chest, directly over her heart. Then she felt the knife. It didn't cut deep, just a shallow slice across her sternum. But the moment her blood welled up, the moment it touched the air, the world exploded into agony. It felt like her bones were being pulled apart from the inside, like her blood was boiling, like every nerve ending was being set on fire simultaneously. Arianeth's back arched off the stone, her mouth opening in a soundless scream. Don't fight it, Varia's voice echoed in her mind. Let it wash through you. Pain is just information. Acknowledge it. Don't resist. But how could she not resist when it felt like she was being torn apart? The pain intensified. And then, visions. She was back in the ravine. 3 years ago. Darius lay broken at her feet, blood pooling beneath him, his eyes glowing with malice even as his body failed. You'll regret this, Vision Darius whispered. You'll regret not finishing what Theron started. I'm not a killer, Vision Arianeth said. No, you're worse. You're a coward. You'll make a deal with a monster to avoid making a hard choice, and it will destroy you. The scene shifted. Now she stood in the Silvercrest pack house, but it was burning. Flames consumed everything. She ran through the halls, searching, screaming names. Theron, Evadne. She found them in the grand hall. Dead. All of them. Theron's body was torn apart. Evadne's eyes were open, staring at nothing. The pack members she'd tried to save were piled like discarded dolls. And standing in the center of the carnage was Arianeth herself. Her hands were covered in blood. You did this, the Vision Arianeth said, smiling. You made the oath thinking you'd save them. But all you did was delay the inevitable. Darius always wins. You can't save anyone. You're not a hero. You're just a scared little wolf who runs from everything hard. No, Arianeth gasped. That's not true. Isn't it? You ran from Theron when your feelings got too complicated. You ran from the pack when Darius threatened them. You're running right now, calling it a mission, calling it sacrifice, when really you're just too afraid to admit you can't win. The Vision Arianeth's form shifted, became Darius. He walked toward her, his steps echoing in the burning hall. You swore an oath to me, blood to blood, soul to soul. You think some witch can break what I've built. You think you can escape me. He reached out, his hand closing around her throat. You're mine, Arianeth. You'll always be mine. Back in the ritual chamber, Arianeth's body convulsed. Blood poured from her nose, her ears. Her fingernails clawed at the stone beneath her. Various chanting grew louder, more forceful. The symbols on the floor blazed with brilliant white light. Hold on, the witch commanded. You're almost through. But in the vision, Darius's grip tightened. Arianeth couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. The edges of her vision darkened. This is it. This is how I die. Then a voice. Not Darius's. Not her own. Theron's. You're not his. You never were. She saw him. Not a vision. Not a memory. Something else. Something real piercing through the darkness. Theron stood before her, hand extended. Your pack, Arianeth. My pack. And I don't abandon my wolves. I can't, she choked out. He's too strong. He's a liar. And liars only have the power you give them. Theron's gray eyes burned into hers. Take my hand. Come back to me. If I do the oath is already broken. You just have to accept it. Arianeth looked at his hand, then at Darius, still squeezing her throat. A choice. Stay trapped in fear, or reach for freedom. She reached for Theron. The moment their hands touched, everything shattered. The vision, the pain, Darius's grip. All of it exploded into fragments of light. Arianeth gasped, her eyes flying open. She was back in the ritual chamber, her body drenched in sweat and blood, every muscle trembling. Varia stood over her, the bone knife still in her hand, her expression exhausted. It's done, the witch said quietly. Arianeth tried to sit up. Failed. Her body felt like it had been wrung out and left to dry. The oath, she managed to ask. Weakened. Not broken, but porous, like a net with holes. You'll be able to act against Darius without immediate death. But Varia's black eyes bore into hers. The more you resist, the more the oath will fight back. You'll have pain, disorientation, possibly hallucinations. And if you push too hard, too fast, it will snap back and kill you. How will I know when I'm pushing too hard? You'll know. Your body will tell you. Listen to it. Arianeth finally managed to sit up, ignoring the way the room spun. How long was I under? 3 hours. 3. She looked at Varia in shock. There must be. Pacing a hole in my clearing. Yes. The alpha was quite insistent about interrupting several times. I had to threaten to turn him into a toad. Despite everything, Arianeth smiled. You can do that. No, but he doesn't know that. Varia offered her a hand, helping her stand. Arianeth's legs shook, but held. There's one more thing you should know. What? The ritual revealed something. Something about your bond with Darius. It's not just an oath, Arianeth. It's... She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. It's trying to become a mate bond. Arianeth's blood turned to ice. What? That's why it's so strong. Why it's so hard to break. Darius didn't just bind you to silence. He tried to bind you to him. Permanently. It didn't take, you're not compatible, but the intent is there. Woven into every thread of the magic. Why would he? Power. Control. Maybe even genuine twisted affection. I don't pretend to understand the mind of a monster. Varia handed her a robe. But it means that when you face him, you need to be careful. He'll try to activate the bond, to force it into completion. If he succeeds, I'll be bound to him forever. Worse, you'll lose yourself entirely. Your will, your personality, everything that makes you, you will be subsumed into his dominance. You'll become a puppet, a weapon he can wield against everyone you love. Arianeth pulled on the robe with shaking hands. Then I will make sure he doesn't succeed. How? By being faster, smarter, and by having something he doesn't. What's that? Arianeth looked up, her eyes hard with determination. People who actually love me. She climbed the stairs back to the main floor, Varia following. When she emerged into the clearing, she found Theron exactly where Varia predicted. Pacing, his hair wild from running his hands through it, his expression tortured. The moment he saw her, he crossed the distance in 3 strides. You're alive, he breathed, his hands hovering over her face, her shoulders, as if afraid she might shatter if he touched her. I'm alive, she confirmed. The oath, weakened. I can move against Darius now, within limits. Theron's expression shifted from relief to determination. Then we move. Now. I've already made calls. We have allies gathering 10 miles from Silvercrest territory. 20 wolves. Maybe more by the time we arrive. That's not enough against Darius's forces. It'll have to be. We're out of time. Kellen emerged from the tree line, carrying supplies. The truck's loaded. We can be there in 4 hours if we push it. Arianeth looked between them. What's the plan? You go in as my proxy. You buy us time, assess the situation, and find where he's keeping the hostages. Theron's eyes hardened. The moment you signal, we come in hard and fast. Overwhelming force. No mercy. And Darius? Is mine. The alpha command in his voice was absolute. This ends tonight. One way or another. Arianeth nodded. Then let's go get your sister back. They moved toward the truck. But before climbing in, Arianeth turned back to Varia. The witch stood on her porch, watching them with those fathomless black eyes. Thank you, Arianeth said. Don't thank me yet. You might not survive the night. If I don't, you will. Varia's smile was sharp. Because you have something Darius will never understand. You have people willing to die for you not out of fear or obligation, but because they choose to. That's power he can't match. And the favor I owe you will be collected when the time is right. Until then, Varia raised her hand in a gesture that might have been a blessing or warning. May the old ones guide your path, and may your enemies fall before you like wheat before the scythe. The words settled over Arianeth like a mantle. She climbed into the truck beside Theron. Kellen took the back seat. As they pulled away, Arianeth looked back one more time at the crooked house, at the witch standing guard over mysteries older than memory. No turning back now, Theron said quietly. No, Arianeth agreed. No turning back. The truck roared to life, eating up the miles between them and destiny. Behind them, Varia watched until they disappeared from view. Then she turned and walked into her house. In her hand, she held a single thread of silver light, a piece of the oath she'd pulled from Arianeth's soul. So it begins, she whispered to the darkness. The game within the game. The truth beneath the lie. She placed the thread in a jar, sealed it with wax, and set it on a shelf next to a dozen others, each one glowing softly, each one a soul she'd touched. Each one a piece of a puzzle only she could see. Checkmate in 7 moves, she said to the empty room. Unless the players surprise me. The candles flickered, and somewhere deep in the mountains, Darius Ashcroft felt a chill run down his spine. Something had changed. The board had shifted, and for the first time in 3 years, he wasn't sure he was still winning. Chapter 8. Into the Lion's Den. The Silvercrest pack territory began where the paved roads ended. Arianeth stood at the boundary line, marked by ancient stone cairns carved with pack symbols, and felt the weight of 3 years pressing down on her shoulders. Home. This had been home. The forest stretched before her, dark and deep, familiar as her own heartbeat. She knew every trail, every landmark, every hidden den and sacred grove. She'd run these woods as a wolf, hunted here, trained here, bled here. And now she was returning as a ghost. The truck was parked 2 miles back, hidden in a ravine with Theron and the assembled allies. 23 wolves in total. Not an army, but enough. Enough to cause chaos when the moment came. If the moment came. Arianeth wore simple clothes, dark jeans, a black thermal shirt, boots made for running. No weapons. Darius's terms had been clear. But she didn't need weapons. Her body was a weapon, honed by years of training, sharpened by 3 years of survival. You don't have to do this alone, Theron had said before she left. His hands had cupped her face, his gray eyes searching hers. We can find another way. There is no other way. You know that. Then take this. He'd pressed something into her palm. A small communications device, barely larger than a pill. Swallow it. It'll transmit audio. We'll hear everything. The moment you need us, you'll come. She'd closed her fingers around it. I know. Arianeth. His voice had dropped, becoming rough with emotion. When this is over, when Evadne is safe and Darius is dead, we need to talk. About us. About what we are. What are we? He'd leaned his forehead against hers. I don't know, but I'm tired of pretending there's nothing. She'd swallowed the device without water, feeling it slide down her throat, a foreign presence that somehow made her feel less alone. Now, standing at the boundary, she took a deep breath and stepped into Silvercrest territory. The moment her foot crossed the line, she felt it. The pack bonds, dormant for 3 years, suddenly flaring to life. Not full strength, the oath still suppressed them, but present. Like distant music she could almost hear. Home, her wolf whispered. We're home. Not yet, Arianeth murmured. Not until everyone's safe. She moved through the forest with practiced silence. The pack house was 3 miles in situated on a rise overlooking a valley. It was a sprawling structure, part lodge, part fortress, designed to house a pack of over 100 wolves. As she drew closer, she began to see signs of occupation. Guards, posted at intervals along the approach. All rogues, judging by their mismatched clothing and feral energy. They didn't try to hide. I didn't need to. This was a show of force. Darius wants me to see them. Wants me to feel outnumbered. When she was 50 yards from the house, 2 guards stepped into her path. That's far enough, the larger one said. He was built like a brick wall, with a shaved head and scars crisscrossing his face. State your business. I'm here to see Darius Ashcroft. Yeah. Who's asking? Arianeth Vane. He's expecting me. The guards exchanged glances. The smaller one, wiry and twitchy, pulled out a radio. Boss, we got a female here. Her name's Vane. Static. Then Darius's voice, smooth as poison honey. Well, well. My little oath-bound wolf returns. Search for her, thoroughly, then bring her to the Grand Hall. The search was invasive, humiliating, designed to strip away dignity. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. When they were satisfied, they bound her wrists with silver-lined cuffs. The metal burned against her skin, but Arianeth kept her face blank. Move. The brick wall grunted, shoving her forward. They marched her up the stone steps she'd climbed 1,000 times before. The great doors stood open, and beyond them, Arianeth's breath caught. The Grand Hall had been transformed. The long tables where the pack once gathered for meals were overturned, pushed against the walls. The tapestries depicting pack history had been torn down. And in the center of the room, arranged like pieces on a chessboard, were the hostages. 40 wolves, maybe more, sitting on the floor, hands bound, surrounded by armed rogues. She saw familiar faces. Marcus, the pack's head tracker. Celine, who taught her hand-to-hand combat. Young wolves are barely out of adolescence. Mothers holding children. All of them looked exhausted, terrified, but alive. And there, separate from the others, chained to a chair on the raised platform where the Alpha's seat once stood, Evadne. Theron's sister had clearly fought. Her knuckles were bloodied, her lips split, bruises darkening her jawline. But her eyes were fierce, defiant. When she saw Arianeth, they widened with recognition and something else. Hope. Arianeth Vane. Darius's voice echoed through the hall. My favorite traitor. He emerged from the shadows behind the platform, and Arianeth's stomach turned. He looked like Theron. Same build, same strong features, same dark hair. But where Theron's eyes were storm gray, Darius's were pale amber, cold and calculating. And where Theron moved with controlled power, Darius moved with barely restrained violence. He was dressed in all black, like he was attending a funeral. Maybe he was. The cuffs are a nice touch, Arianeth said, keeping her voice level. But unnecessary. I came willingly. Did you? Darius descended the platform steps, circling her like a predator. Or did you come because I left you no choice? There's a difference. I came to negotiate. Negotiate. He laughed. How fascinating. And what exactly do you have to bargain with? Theron's surrender. In exchange for the hostage's release. Theron's surrender was never in question. He'll come because he's predictable. Honorable. Darius spat the word like a curse. But you? You're here for a different reason, aren't you? He stopped in front of her, so close she could smell him. Tobacco and whiskey and something rotten underneath. You're here because you think you can save them. Play the hero one more time. His hand shot out, gripping her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. But the heroes die, Arianeth. They always die. She held his gaze. So do villains. His grip tightened. Is that what I am to you? The villain in your story. You tell me. You're the one holding children hostage. I'm the one claiming what's rightfully mine. There's a difference. He released her, stepping back. But let's not waste time on philosophy. You came to negotiate. So negotiate. What are Theron's terms? Arianeth took a steadying breath. This was the moment. The first move in a game she had to win. He'll abdicate. Publicly acknowledge you as the Alpha of Silvercrest. In exchange, you release all hostages except Evadne. She stays until the transfer is complete. And then, And then you let her go. Let them all go. And you have what you wanted. The pack, the territory, everything. Darius studied her, his pale eyes searching for the trap. Why would he agree to this? Why not fight? Because he's tired. 3 years of searching for you, of looking over his shoulder, of wondering when you'd strike. He wants it over. Does he? Darius's smile was sharp. Or does he want to lure me into a false sense of security? Launch an attack when my guard is down. He doesn't have the forces for an attack. You know that. Do I? He gestured to one of his guards. The man dragged forward a wolf Arianeth recognized. Damien, one of Theron's scouts. He was beaten, barely conscious. This one was caught 2 hours ago, surveying the perimeter. Shall I tell you what he confessed after some persuasion? Arianeth's heart sank. He told us about the allies gathering outside the territory. 20 wolves, maybe more, preparing for an assault. Darius's voice hardened. Did you really think I wouldn't know? That I wouldn't have watched every approach? Then you know we can't win a direct fight, Arianeth said, thinking fast. Those wolves aren't an invasion force. They're an escort, to ensure safe passage for the hostages. An escort. Darius laughed. You're a talented liar, Arianeth. I'll give you that. But I know my brother. He would never surrender. Not really. This whole thing is a play. A distraction. He moved to Evadne, his hand settling on her shoulder. She flinched but didn't cry out. So here's my counteroffer, Darius said. You want the hostages released? Fine. But Theron comes here. In person. Unarmed. Within the hour. And he submits to me in front of the entire pack. Throat bared. The full ritual of submission. That's execution, Arianeth said. Not surrender. Call it what you want. Those are my terms. His fingers tightened on Evadne's shoulder. 1 hour. If he's not here, I start killing hostages. 1 every 10 minutes. Starting with dear Evadne, through the communication device lodged in her throat. Arianeth knew Theron was hearing every word. Could hear the rage that must be building in him. She needed to buy more time. There's another option, Arianeth said carefully. Oh, the old laws. Trial by combat. You want to prove you're worthy of leading this pack? Fight for it. 1-on-1. You and Theron. No interference. The winner takes all. Darius's eyes gleamed. Trying to maneuver me into a fair fight? How noble. Trying to give you what you actually want. To beat Theron. To prove you're stronger. I already proved that once. When I survived his attempt to kill me. You survived a fall. That's luck, not strength. Arianeth stepped closer, her voice dropping. But you've always wondered, haven't you? If you could actually beat him in a fair fight. No ambushes. No poison. Just pure strength and skill. She could see the thought taking root. Darius's greatest weakness had always been his pride. And if I refuse, he asked, then you'll always know you were afraid to face him. That the only way you could win was by hiding behind hostages and overwhelming numbers. Some alpha that makes you. Darius's jaw clenched. For a moment, she thought she'd pushed too far. Then he smiled. You know what? I like it. A final confrontation. Brother against brother. Very dramatic. He turned to his guards. Send word to Theron. Trial by combat. Sunset. Here, in the clearing where our father held the summer hunts. Traditional rules. No weapons. No interference. To the death. And the hostages? Arianeth pressed. Released after Theron's death. Not before. That wasn't the deal. Then there is no deal. Darius moved back to Evadne. Tell you what. Since you're so concerned about insurance, I'll release half the hostages now. Show of good faith. The rest go free after the trial. It wasn't ideal, but it was better than nothing. Done, Arianeth said. Good. Darius gestured to his guards. Release 20 of them. The weakest ones. The ones who can't fight. Keep the warriors. He looked at Arianeth. And keep her. Before she could react, 2 guards grabbed her arms, yanking her backward. What? Did you really think I'd let you walk free? Darius approached her, his smile predatory. You're valuable, Arianeth. Too valuable to waste. Besides, his hand rose to her face, fingers trailing along her jaw. We have unfinished business. You and I. She felt it then. The oath stirring. responding to his proximity. Through the bond, she felt his intention, his desire to activate the forced mate bond, to complete what he'd started 3 years ago. "Don't," she said, her voice sharp with warning. "Or what? You'll fight me? You're bound to me, Arianeth, body and soul. The oath ensures it. The oath is broken." His eyes narrowed. "What did you say?" "I said the oath is broken. Or close enough. Did you really think I'd come here without insurance?" She saw the flash of uncertainty cross his face, the first crack in his confidence. "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Arianeth met his eyes. "Try it. Try to activate the bond. See what happens." Darius's hand moved to her throat, his fingers finding the pulse point. She felt his power pushing against her, trying to force the connection, trying to overwhelm her will. The oath resisted, but weakly. The holes Varia had created held. Darius's eyes widened. "What did you do?" "I took back my freedom, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." He backhanded her across the face. The force of it knocked her to the floor, the silver cuffs cutting into her wrists. "Lock her in the West Wing," he snarled to his guards. "And if she tries to escape, break her legs." They hauled her up, dragging her toward the stairs. As she was pulled from the hall, Arianeth caught Evadne's eye one more time. The younger woman mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." Arianeth nodded once. Then she was thrown into a room she recognized. The guest quarters, where visiting alphas once stayed. The door slammed shut. A lock clicked. She was alone. Arianeth sat on the floor, her back against the wall, and closed her eyes. Through the communication device, she whispered, knowing Theron would hear. "Sunset. Trial by combat." He took the bait. She didn't know if Theron could respond. Didn't know if he was even still listening. But a moment later, she felt it. A pulse through the dormant pack bonds. Faint but unmistakable. A message that needed no words. "I'm coming. Hold on." Arianeth smiled despite the blood on her lip. "I know," she whispered. "I'm counting on it." Outside, the sun was descending toward the horizon. 4 hours until sunset. 4 hours to prepare. 4 hours until everything came to an end, one way or another. Chapter 9. The calm before the storm. The room was sparse. A bed with a thin mattress. A wooden chair. A single window overlooking the eastern forest. Arianeth tested the window first. Locked from the outside, reinforced with silver bars. She could break through, but not quietly and not without triggering every guard within earshot. The door was solid oak, 3 inches thick. She pressed her ear against it, listening. 2 heartbeats on the other side. Guards, alert, armed. Escape wasn't an option. Not yet. She moved to the bed and sat, finally allowing herself to process the pain. Her face throbbed where Darius had struck her. The silver cuffs had left burns on her wrists, angry and red. And beneath it all, the oath writhed like a living thing, angry at being weakened, fighting to reassert control. Varia had warned her. The more she resisted, the harder it would push back. So don't resist. Work with it. Arianeth closed her eyes and focused inward, searching for the boundaries of the oath. She could feel it now, the magical binding that had controlled her for 3 years. But Varia was right. It wasn't solid anymore. It was porous, full of holes. She tested one of those holes, pushing against it gently. Pain lanced through her skull. Not unbearable, but a warning. Careful. Don't push too hard too fast. She pulled back, breathing through the discomfort. Outside, voices drifted up from below. Guards talking, laughing. The casual cruelty of men who believed they'd already won. Arianeth's fingers found the communication device lodged in her throat. She swallowed, feeling it shift slightly, then whispered, "Theron, if you can hear me, don't come alone." Silence, but she knew he was listening. Somewhere 2 miles away, he was hearing every word. Darius is planning something. The trial by combat, it's not what it seems. He's too confident, too eager. He has a backup plan. She paused, organizing her thoughts. When you fight him, watch his left side. He favors it when he's tired. And his ankle, the left one, never healed right from the fall. If you can injure it early, he'll compensate, leave himself open. She was giving away everything she knew. Everything she'd observed about Darius 3 years ago when she'd found him broken in that ravine. He'll try to get in your head, make you angry, make you reckless. Don't let him. Stay focused. Stay. The door burst open. Arianeth cut herself off as 2 guards entered. The same ones from earlier. Brickwall and Twitchy. Boss wants to see you, Brickwall grunted. I'm comfortable here, thanks. He crossed the room in 2 strides and grabbed her arm, hauling her to her feet. Wasn't a request. They dragged her down the hall, down the stairs she'd once descended freely, into the depths of the pack house, past the kitchen where she'd shared meals, past the training rooms where she'd sparred with packmates, past the library where she and Theron had spent late nights planning strategies, sitting so close their shoulders touched, both pretending there was nothing between them but duty. The memories cut deeper than any blade. They stopped at a door Arianeth had never been allowed through. The Alpha's private office, Theron's father's domain, then Theron's, and now. Darius sat behind the massive oak desk, papers spread before him. He looked up when she entered, his pale amber eyes assessing. Leave us, he told the guards. Boss, are you sure? I said leave. They obeyed, closing the door behind them. Darius gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Arianeth remained standing. I'm fine. Sit. Down. The Alpha command rolled through the room. Arianeth's knees buckled automatically, her body responding to the authority even as her mind rebelled. She sat. Darius smiled. There. See, you can still be trained. What do you want? To talk. Without an audience. He leaned back in his chair, studying her. 3 years ago, when you found me in that ravine, I was dying. My body was broken. My pack had turned against me. I had nothing. You had a choice. Confess your crimes. Accept judgment. Live. Live as what? A prisoner? A broken wolf stripped of rank and purpose. He shook his head. That's not living. That's existing. And I refuse to simply exist. So you manipulated me instead. Used my loyalty against me. I gave you a choice too, Arianeth. Help me or watch everyone you love die. You chose to help. That's not manipulation. That's survival. You lied about the oath. Made it one-sided. Keep yourself free while binding me to silence. Darius's expression flickered with something that might have been respect. You've been to see a witch. Varia Nightshade, I assume. My mother mentioned her once. Said she was dangerous. She weakened your hold on me. Did she? Or did she simply make you think she did? He stood, moving around the desk. Here's the thing about blood magic, Arianeth. It's not about the ritual. It's about belief. If you believe you're free, you act free. But the chains are still there. Just invisible. He was trying to get in her head, planting doubt. You're afraid, Arianeth said, meeting his eyes. That's why you're stalling. You know Theron's going to kill you at sunset. Am I afraid? Or am I just biding my time? Darius leaned against the desk, arms crossed. You see, while you were playing hero, I was making arrangements. Insurance policies. What kind of insurance? The kind that ensures I win. No matter what happens in that clearing. Ice formed in Arianeth's chest. What did you do? Nothing yet. But if Theron kills me, if I fall in combat, my allies have very specific instructions. Instructions that involve the remaining hostages, and a lot of fire. You're bluffing. Am I? You want to risk 40 lives on that assumption. Arianeth's mind raced. He was telling the truth. She could feel it. He'd built a failsafe. Even in death, he'd find a way to hurt Theron. So what's the play, she asked. Theron throws the fight? Let's kill him. God, no. Where's the satisfaction in that? Darius pushed off the desk, pacing. No, I want him to fight. I want him to give everything he has. And then, when he's exhausted, when he thinks victory is within reach, I want him to watch as I activate the contingency, as the pack house burns with everyone he loves inside. You're insane. I'm determined. There's a difference. He stopped in front of her. But here's where you come in. You're going to help me. I'd rather die. Would you? Even if it means saving them. His hand moved to her face again, and this time she couldn't pull away. The silver cuffs held her in place. I'm giving you another choice, Arianeth. The same choice I gave you 3 years ago. Help me and they live. Refuse and they burn. Help you how? At the trial. When Theron and I are fighting, you're going to distract him. A word. A movement. Something that breaks his focus for just a second. That's all I need. Arianeth's stomach turned. You want me to help you kill him? I want you to help me win. How that happens is up to Theron. He'll never forgive me. He's already forgiven you for worse. Darius's voice softened, becoming almost gentle. Don't you see? This is mercy. A quick death in combat is better than watching everyone he loves die. Better than the guilt of survival. This way he goes out fighting. A warrior's end. It was twisted logic. Poisonous. But there was a terrible thread of truth in it. If Theron died fighting, at least he'd die free. If he survived and the pack burned, I need time to think, Arianeth said. You have until sunset. After that, the choice is made for you. Darius stepped back. Guards. The door opened. Brick wall and Twitchy returned. Take her back to her room. And post 4 guards this time. She's more dangerous than she looks. As they dragged her away, Arianeth caught one last glimpse of Darius. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Satisfaction? Anticipation? Or something else entirely. Back in her room, the guards shoved her inside and locked the door. She heard them take positions outside. For sets of footsteps. For heartbeats. Arianeth moved to the window and stared out at the forest. The sun was lower now. Maybe 3 hours until sunset. 3 hours to find a way out of this trap. She pressed her hand against the glass, feeling the silver bars beneath. They burned slightly, but she didn't pull away. Theron, she whispered, knowing he was still listening. Don't trust the trial. It's rigged. He has a contingency. If you kill him, the hostages die. If you don't kill him, he'll slaughter everyone anyway. We need a third option. Silence answered her, but she knew he'd heard, and she knew what he was thinking, because she was thinking the same thing. There was only one way to win this. Someone had to die. The question was who? Theron stood in the ravine, the communication device in his ear transmitting Arianeth's every word, and felt the weight of impossible choices pressing down on him. Around him, 23 wolves waited for orders. Battle-hardened warriors from allied packs who'd answered his call. Good people. Loyal people. Not enough people. What's the plan, Alpha? Marcus, his head tracker, asked quietly. We heard what Darius said. If you fight him, he kills the hostages. If you don't fight him, he kills them anyway. There's always a third option, Theron said, his voice hard. We just haven't found it yet. Kellen stepped forward. Since confessing his betrayal, he'd been silent, guilt eating him alive. But now his eyes burned with determination. I know the layout. I know where Darius would set his contingency. The old wine cellar. It's the only space large enough to hold explosives that could take down the whole house. How do you know? Because that's where he kept the charges during the coup attempt. Before you stopped him, Kellen's jaw tightened. If I can get inside before the trial starts, I can disarm them. You'd never make it past the guards. I would if I had a distraction. A big one. Theron looked at him. You're talking about a diversionary attack. Small force. Fast. Hit the eastern perimeter. Draw the guards away from the house. I slip in during the chaos, disarm the explosives, and free the hostages. And if you're caught? Kellen met his eyes steadily. Then I die fixing the mess I made. Seems fair. Theron studied him. I saw the sincerity, the desperate need for redemption. We'd need someone to lead the diversion. Someone Darius's forces would consider a real threat. I'll do it. Everyone turned. A wolf stepped forward from the back of the group. Female. Tall and lean with silver blonde hair and scars marking her arms. Noriel. Alpha of the Shadow Peak Pack. One of the fiercest warriors on the East Coast. You came, Theron said, surprise evident in his voice. You called. I answered. Noriel's smile was sharp. Besides, Darius tried to recruit me 6 months ago. Offer me territory if I'd betray you. I've been waiting for an excuse to put an arrow in his skull. This could start a war between packs. Good. I like war. It's honest. She rolled her shoulders, loosening up. Give me 5 wolves. We'll hit the eastern perimeter hard enough to make them think it's a full invasion. By the time they realize it's a feint, Kellen will be in and out. Theron looked around at the assembled wolves, at the determination in their eyes, at the willingness to die for a cause that wasn't even theirs. "This is suicide," he said quietly. "All of it. Even if we succeed, some of us won't make it out." "Then we better make it count," Noriel said. Marcus nodded. "For the pack." The others echoed it. "For the pack." Theron felt something shift in his chest. The weight of leadership, of being responsible for lives that might end tonight because of his choices, but also pride. These wolves didn't owe him anything, but they were here anyway, because that's what pack meant. "All right," Theron said, his voice taking on the alpha command. "Here's how this plays out. Noriel, take your team and hit the eastern perimeter at sunset minus 30 minutes. Make it loud. Make it look like we're coming for a full assault. With pleasure. Kellen, you go in during the chaos. Disarm the explosives. Free as many hostages as you can. Get them to the southern exit. We'll have wolves waiting there to escort them out." "Understood. The rest of you spread out along the tree line. When the trial starts, when Darius is focused on me, you move in. Silent. Fast. Take out any guards you can without alerting the main force. And you?" Marcus asked. Theron's expression hardened. "I'm going to do what I should have done 3 years ago. I'm going to kill my brother. And if Arianeth is right, if he has another contingency we don't know about, then we improvise." It wasn't much of a plan, but it was the only plan they had. The sun continued its descent. 2 hours until sunset. 2 hours until everything ended. Theron closed his eyes and focused on the dormant pack bonds, on the thread that connected him to every Silvercrest wolf, on the thread that connected him to Arianeth. "Hold on," he sent through the bond. "I'm coming." He didn't know if she could feel it. Didn't know if the oath had severed that connection too completely. But 2 miles away, in a locked room in the pack house, Arianeth felt something. A pulse, warm and steady, like a heartbeat that wasn't her own. She pressed her hand to her chest and smiled. "I know," she whispered to the empty room. "And I'm ready." Outside, the sun touched the tops of the trees. The countdown had begun. Chapter 10. Blood and Fire. Sunset arrived like a blade drawn across the throat of the day. Arianeth stood at the window of her prison, watching the sky bleed crimson and gold. Beautiful and terrible. Like everything else about this moment. Behind her, the lock clicked. She turned. Brick Wall entered, along with 2 other guards she didn't recognize. "Time to go," he said. "The boss wants you at the trial." "As what?" "Entertainment. As leverage. Move." They didn't bother with the silver cuffs this time. Instead, they surrounded her, hands on weapons, ready to put her down if she so much as twitched wrong. Smart. They led her through the pack house, down corridors she'd walked 1,000 times. But everything felt wrong now. The walls that once held warmth and laughter were cold, empty. The rogues had stripped the place of its soul, leaving behind only the shell. As they descended the grand staircase, Arianeth saw the remaining hostages being led out through the main doors. 20 wolves, the ones Darius had promised to release. They looked terrified, but alive. Among them, she spotted Marcus. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. He gave her the smallest nod. "We're ready." Then he was gone, shepherded out by rogue guards. The rest of the hostages, the warriors, and the strategic assets were being moved to the grand hall. Arianeth caught a glimpse of Evadne, still chained but defiant. Their eyes met. Evadne mouthed something. 2 words Arianeth couldn't quite make out. Then she was being shoved forward, out the main doors, into the dying light. The clearing where the trial would take place was a 1/4 mile from the house. A natural amphitheater formed by ancient pines, with a flat circle of earth in the center. Arianeth had trained here, had celebrated summer hunts here, had watched Theron's father preside over pack judgments in this very spot. Now it would become a grave. Rogues lined the perimeter, maybe 50 of them, armed with everything from silver blades to automatic weapons. Overkill for a trial by combat. But Darius had never been one for subtlety. In the center of the clearing stood a raised platform. Simple, brutal. 2 wolves would enter. 1 would leave. Darius was already there, stripped to the waist, his body corded with muscle and old scars. He was stretching, warming up, moving with the confidence of someone who'd already won. He saw Arianeth and smiled. "Ah, my favorite spectator. Front row seat. I insist." The guard shoved her toward a wooden post that had been driven into the ground at the edge of the platform. They secured her to it with chains. Not silver this time, just iron, heavy and unbreakable. "Comfortable?" Darius asked, approaching her. Thrilled. He laughed. "I do appreciate your spirit. It's going to make breaking you so much more satisfying." He leaned in close, his voice dropping. "Have you made your choice? Will you help me when the moment comes?" Arianeth met his eyes. "Go to hell. Already there, sweetheart. Already there." He straightened, addressing the assembled rogues. "Brothers, sisters, tonight we witness history. Tonight, the true alpha of Silvercrest will be decided not by birthright or politics, but by strength, by blood." The rogues cheered, banging weapons against shields. "My brother thinks he can hold what he stole from me. But tonight, I will prove what I've always known. I am the stronger wolf. I am the rightful leader. And when I stand over his corpse, when I claim this pack as mine, you will all be rewarded beyond measure." More cheers. Louder this time. Darius was good at this, whipping them into a frenzy, making them believe in his vision. And now he continued, his voice rising. "I call forth my challenger, Theron Ashcroft, Alpha of Silvercrest. Come face your judgment." Silence fell. Everyone turned to the tree line. For a moment, nothing. Then movement. Theron emerged from the shadows. He wore only dark pants and boots, his torso bare, revealing the network of scars that mapped his history. Battle wounds, training accidents, the mark of a warrior who'd earned his position through blood and pain. He moved with controlled power, every step deliberate, his gray eyes locked on Darius. Behind him, at the edge of the clearing, Arianeth could just make out the shapes of allies, hidden in the trees, waiting. Theron stopped at the edge of the platform. "I'm here. Let's get this over with." "So eager to die?" Darius mocked. "No final words? No speech about honor and duty. My words are for my pack, not for you." Theron climbed onto the platform, and Arianeth felt her breath catch. He was magnificent, dangerous, every inch an alpha. "The terms," Theron said, his voice carrying across the clearing. "Trial by combat. Traditional rules. To the death. The winner claims the pack. Loser gets buried in the forest." "Agreed." Darius rolled his shoulders. "But let's add one more term. When I win, when your blood soaks this ground, your precious Arianeth becomes mine. Fully. The bond completes. She serves me for the rest of her very short life." Arianeth's stomach dropped. Theron's eyes flickered to her, just for a second. She saw the question there. She shook her head fractionally. "Don't agree to that." But Theron's jaw set. "And if I win, the oath breaks. Completely. She's free. And every wolf under your command walks away without retribution." Bold terms for a wolf about to die. Darius extended his hand, but agreed. They clasped forearms, sealing the bargain. The moment their skin touched, power flared. Two alphas, two wills. Both are absolute in their conviction. They separated, moving to opposite sides of the platform. A rogue stepped forward, an older male with a scar across his throat. He would serve as adjudicator. "Combat begins at my mark," he announced. "No weapons, no interference. Fight until one cannot continue, or until one is dead." He looked between them. "Combatants ready?" "Ready," Darius said. Theron just nodded. The adjudicator raised his hand. Arianeth's heart hammered against her ribs. Through the communication device still lodged in her throat, she whispered, knowing the allies in the trees could hear. "East side. 3 guards. They're distracted. Move now." She didn't know if anyone responded. Didn't know if the plan was in motion. All she could do was watch. The adjudicator's hand fell. "Begin." Darius struck first. He was fast, faster than Arianeth remembered, his fist driving toward Theron's face with brutal force. Theron deflected, redirecting the energy, using Darius's momentum against him. He countered with a strike to the ribs, solid and precise. Darius grunted, but didn't slow. He spun, his legs sweeping out in a vicious arc. Theron jumped back, barely avoiding the blow. They circled each other, two apex predators searching for openings. "You've gotten soft, brother," Darius taunted. 3 years playing politician while I've been sharpening my skills." "Funny," Theron replied. "You still talk too much." He lunged, closing the distance in a heartbeat. His fist became a blur, striking high then low, forcing Darius to defend. But Darius was ready. He blocked, absorbed, waited for the pattern. Then he shifted, his body contorted, bones cracking, fur erupting from his skin. He was shifting mid-combat. Illegal in traditional trials, but Darius had never cared about tradition. His wolf form exploded into being. Massive, gray-brown with amber eyes that burned with hatred. Theron didn't hesitate. He shifted too. His wolf was larger, silver-tipped gray with eyes like molten metal. The alpha in physical form. They collided. The impact shook the ground. Fangs snapped. Claws raked. Blood sprayed. Arianeth pulled against her chains, helpless to do anything but watch. The wolves were evenly matched. For every blow Theron landed, Darius returned too. They fought with savage intelligence, targeting old injuries, exploiting weaknesses. Darius went for Theron's left shoulder, the one that had been dislocated during the coup attempt. Theron countered by targeting Darius's left ankle, the one that had never healed right. Just like Arianeth had told him. The ankle gave out. Darius stumbled. Theron seized the advantage, his jaws closing around Darius's throat. Not killing. Not yet. Just holding. Submission position. The crowd of rogues went silent. This was it. The moment. All Theron had to do was bite down. But he didn't. Through the bond, Arianeth felt his hesitation. Felt the weight of killing his own brother. "Do it," she whispered. "Theron, do it." But before he could, Darius did something unexpected. He shifted back to human form. In wolf form, Theron couldn't hold him the same way. Darius slipped free, rolled, and came up with something in his hand. A blade. Silver. He'd hidden it beneath the platform. Cheated. Again. "Theron!" Arianeth screamed. But it was too late. Darius drove the blade toward Theron's exposed side. Theron shifted back at the last second, catching Darius's wrist, stopping the blade inches from his skin. They struggled, human now, muscles straining, both fighting for control of the weapon. "You can't win," Darius hissed. "I'll always be one step ahead. Always be willing to do what you won't." "You're right," Theron said. "You will." Then he did something Darius didn't expect. He let go, released Darius's wrist, let the blade come. It plunged into his side, between his ribs, silver burning through muscle and tissue. Theron gasped, blood flowing. But he didn't fall. Instead, he grabbed Darius by the throat with both hands. "But the difference between us," Theron said through gritted teeth, "is that I'm willing to bleed to protect what I love, and you're only willing to make others bleed." He squeezed. Darius's eyes widened, realization dawning too late. Theron was willing to die to kill him, and there was no defense against that. Darius clawed at Theron's hands, trying to break free. But Theron's grip was iron, unyielding. The adjudicator stepped forward. "Combatant Theron is injured. Do you yield?" "No," Theron said, blood running from his mouth. "Do you yield?" the adjudicator asked Darius. Darius tried to speak. Couldn't. His face was turning purple. Then, from the tree line, an explosion. The eastern perimeter erupted in flames. Noriel's diversion. Chaos erupted. Rogues scattered, some running toward the explosion, others staying to guard the platform. In the confusion, Arianeth saw figures moving through the shadows. Theron's allies, using the distraction to take out guards. But she also saw something else. 3 rogues breaking away from the main group, heading back toward the pack house, toward the hostages, the contingency. "No," Arianeth breathed. She pulled against her chains with everything she had. The iron bit into her wrists, drawing blood, but she didn't stop. On the platform, Theron's grip on Darius was weakening. The silver blade in his side was taking its toll. He was bleeding out. Darius saw it, smiled through his oxygen-starved haze. All he had to do was outlast. Arianeth screamed in frustration, pulling harder. The chain cracked. Not broke, but it cracked. She felt it through the oath. The magic that had bound her, that had controlled her for 3 years. It was breaking. Varia had weakened it. The ritual had created holes. And now, with Darius distracted, with his focus on killing Theron, the oath's grip was slipping. Arianeth closed her eyes and pushed. Pushed against the binding. Against the magic. Against 3 years of chains. The oath fought back. Pain exploded through her skull, white-hot and blinding. But she didn't stop. She thought of Evadne, of the hostages, of Theron bleeding on that platform. And she pushed harder. Something inside her snapped. The oath broke. Not just weakened. Not just cracked. Shattered. Power flooded through her. Pack bonds, dormant for 3 years, roared back to life. Her wolf, starved and suppressed, surged forward with a vengeance. Arianeth's eyes blazed gold. She grabbed the chains with both hands and pulled. The iron screamed. Then it broke. She was free. The guards assigned to watch her turned, raising their weapons. They were too slow. Arianeth shifted mid-leap. Her wolf form exploded into being. Sleek, deadly, marked with a crescent moon scar on her left shoulder. She hit the first guard with enough force to snap his neck. The second, she tore out his throat before he could scream. The third tried to run. She caught him before he made it 3 steps. Then she was racing toward the pack house, toward the hostages, toward the 3 rogues who were even now preparing to activate Darius's final revenge. Behind her on the platform, Theron's vision was graying. The silver was in his blood now, poisoning him, killing him. But he didn't let go. Darius's struggles were weakening. His eyes rolled back. "I win," Theron whispered. Then everything went black. Chapter 11. The Price of Freedom. Arianeth's wolf flew through the forest like a ghost, white fur streaking between dark pines, her paws barely touching the ground. She could hear the pack house ahead. Shouts, screams, the sound of something heavy being dragged. Faster. Her muscles burned, but she pushed harder. The bond between her and the Silvercrest wolves was fully restored now, no longer dormant, and through it she could feel them. Terror. Confusion. The hostages knew something was wrong. She burst from the tree line just as the 3 rogues reached the pack house entrance. One of them carried something. A device. Black and angular with a red light blinking steadily. The detonator. Arianeth didn't slow. She leaped, covering 30 feet in a single bound, and crashed into the rogue holding the device. They went down in a tangle of limbs and fury. The detonator flew from his hands, skittering across the stone steps. The other 2 rogues shifted, their wolves erupting into being. Both males, both large and scarred, battle-hardened. But Arianeth had spent 3 years surviving alone. 3 years honing her skills. 3 years becoming something more than just a soldier. She'd become a weapon. The first wolf lunged at her throat. She ducked under his jaws, twisted, and drove her fangs into his exposed belly. He howled, thrashing. She released him and spun to meet the second attacker. He was smarter, didn't commit to a full attack. Instead, he circled, looking for an opening. The rogue she tackled was getting to his feet, reaching for the detonator. Arianeth couldn't fight both and stop him. She needed help. Through the pack bond, she sent out a desperate call. "Help! Pack house! Now!" And from the forest, an answer. "Coming!" Marcus burst from the trees, his wolf form sleek and dark. He'd been escorting the released hostages when he felt her call. He slammed into the rogue reaching for the detonator, teeth flashing. That left Arianeth with the circling wolf. "Just you and me," she growled, though the sound came out as a snarl in her wolf form. He accepted the challenge, charging straight at her. Arianeth met him head-on. They collided with brutal force, fangs and claws seeking purchase. He was stronger, heavier, but she was faster, more precise. She targeted his legs, his joints, anywhere that would slow him down. He caught her shoulder with his claws, tearing through fur and flesh. Pain blazed, but pain was just information. She used the momentum of his strike to spin inside his guard, her jaws closing on his front leg. Crack! The bone snapped. He fell, whimpering. Arianeth didn't finish him. She shifted back to human form, naked and bleeding, and ran for the detonator. Marcus had the rogue pinned, but the device was rolling toward the edge of the steps, toward a drainage grate. If it fell through, Arianeth dove, her hand closing around the detonator just as it teetered on the edge. Got it. She pulled it close, examining it. The red light is still blinking. A digital timer counting down. 3 minutes. Marcus, she shouted. Get the hostages out. Now. Marcus shifted back, human form revealing a man in his 40s with gray threading through his dark hair. What about the bomb? I'll handle it. Go. He didn't argue. He ran inside, shouting orders. Arianeth studied the detonator. She'd had some explosives training years ago during her time with the pack. But this was sophisticated. Military grade. 2 wires. Red and black. Classic. But there was also a third wire. Green. Non-standard. A failsafe. Cut the wrong one, and the whole thing would blow immediately. 2 minutes, 40 seconds. Her hand shook. Blood from her shoulder wound dripped onto the device. Think. Darius is paranoid. He'd want control. So which wire gives him control? The green one was the failsafe. Cut it, and the timer would stop. Probably. Unless it was a trap. Unless cutting the green wire was exactly what would trigger immediate detonation. Damn it. 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Through the pack bond, she felt Theron. Unconscious. Dying. The silver was spreading through his system. She felt the other wolves. Moving through the pack house. Freeing hostages. Getting them out. But they'd never make it in time. Not all of them. She looked at the device. At the blinking red light. At the 3 wires. Trust your instincts. Arianeth closed her eyes, took a breath, and cut the green wire. The blinking stopped. The timer froze. 2 minutes, 11 seconds. She guessed right. She slumped against the steps, relief flooding through her. Then she heard it. A slow clap. Arianeth's head snapped up. Darius stood in the doorway of the pack house. His throat was bruised, purple and swollen. His breathing was labored. But he was alive. And he was smiling. Clever girl, he rasped. You actually figured it out. Theron is dead. Or dying. I felt him let go. Felt his heartbeat stop. Darius descended the steps slowly, favoring his injured ankle. Which means I win. The pack is mine. The trial was interrupted. No clear victor. Which means by the old laws we defer to strength of claim. And I'm the firstborn. The pack is mine by birthright. Arianeth struggled to her feet, still holding the detonator. The pack will never accept you. They won't have a choice. He gestured behind him. More rogues emerged from the pack house. 20, 30. They'd been hidden inside the whole time. And between them, they dragged Evadne. She was unconscious, blood matting her hair. Here's what's going to happen, Darius said, his voice a painful rasp. You're going to give me that detonator. You're going to submit to me. Acknowledge me as Alpha. And in return, I'll let Evadne live. I'll let all of them live. And if I don't, then I kill her. Right here. Right now. And I burn this whole place to the ground anyway. I have other explosives, Arianeth. Dozens of them. You found 1 detonator. Congratulations. There are 5 more. Arianeth's blood ran cold. You're bluffing. Am I? He pulled a phone from his pocket, tapped the screen. See this? 1 button. That's all it takes. All the charges detonate simultaneously. The pack house, the guest quarters, the training center, everything. He was telling the truth. She could see it in his eyes. So choose, Darius said. Your pride or their lives. Same choice I gave you 3 years ago. How will you answer this time? Arianeth looked at the detonator in her hands. At Evadne's unconscious form, at the hostages being held at gunpoint, at the rogues surrounding her, weapons raised. She couldn't win. Not like this. Not alone. Through the pack bond, she reached out, searching for Theron, for a heartbeat, for any sign of life. Nothing. Just silence. No. Please. Not like this. She reached deeper, pushing past the boundaries she'd normally respect, diving into the bond with everything she had. And there, faint. So faint it was almost imperceptible. A pulse. Theron was alive. Barely, but alive. And if he was alive, there was still hope. Arianeth looked at Darius. I'll submit. On one condition. You're not in a position to negotiate. One condition, she repeated firmly. You let a healer tend to Theron. Keep him alive. He can be your prisoner, your example, whatever you want. But you don't let him die from silver poisoning. Darius tilted his head, considering. Why? Why do you care if he lives? Because I owe him that much. For everything I've done. Everything I've taken from him. How touching. Darius's smile widened. Fine. I'll have my healers stabilize him. But only after you submit. Only after the bond is completed. The bond. The force mate bond he'd been trying to create for 3 years. If she submitted to it now, with the oath broken, there would be nothing stopping it from taking hold. She'd lose herself, become his puppet. But Theron would live. The hostages would live. The pack would survive. All right, Arianeth said quietly. I submit. She set the detonator down and walked toward Darius. His smile was triumphant. Kneel. She knelt. Bare your throat. She tilted her head back, exposing the vulnerable column of her neck. Darius circled her slowly, savoring the moment. 3 years, he said. 3 years I've waited for this. For you to finally accept your place. He knelt behind her, his hand settling on her shoulder. The same shoulder that bore the crescent moon scar. With this mark I claim you. With this bond I bind you. You are mine, Arianeth Vane. Now and forever. His teeth found her neck. But before he could bite down, before he could complete the force bond, a voice cut through the clearing. Get away from her. Everyone turned. Theron stood at the edge of the steps. He shouldn't be standing. Shouldn't be conscious. The silver blade was still lodged in his side, blood soaking through his makeshift bandage. But he was on his feet, and his eyes burned with alpha fire. She's not yours, Darius, Theron said, his voice rough but strong. She's never been yours. Darius stood, dragging Arianeth up with him. You're supposed to be dead. Disappointed. Confused. The silver should have killed you by now. It's trying, but I've got something to live for. Theron's eyes found Arianeth's. Someone to live for. Through the bond, Arianeth felt his pain, felt the silver burning through his veins, felt his body fighting to stay conscious. He was dying, but he'd come anyway. Touching, Darius said, but pointless. You're in no condition to fight. I have 30 armed wolves. I have hostages. I have explosives. What do you have? Theron smiled. It was a terrible, beautiful thing. I have a pack. From the forest, from the pack house, from every direction, wolves emerged. Not just the 23 allies who'd come with Theron. Silvercrest wolves. The ones who'd been released. The ones who'd been held hostage. All of them shifting, taking up positions around the clearing. And at their head, Evadne. She wasn't unconscious. Had never been unconscious. It had been a trick. Surprise, she said, her voice steady despite the blood matting her hair. Did you really think I'd let you mark another female without a fight? Darius's face went white. How? Kellen disarmed your charges an hour ago, Evadne continued, while you were busy with your trial. We've been waiting for the right moment. From the shadows, Kellen emerged, carrying what looked like a box of detonators. All of them are inactive. The ones you're holding, Kellen said to Darius. Fake. I switched them out. You've got nothing. Darius looked at the phone in his hand, pressed the button. Nothing happened. No, he breathed. Yes, Theron said. He took a step forward, then another. Each movement is obviously agonizing. It's over, Darius. You've lost. I haven't lost. Darius grabbed Arianeth, yanking her in front of him, his arm around her throat. I still have her. I'll complete the bond right here, right now, and she'll... He didn't get to finish, because Arianeth slammed her head backward into his already bruised throat. He choked, his grip loosening. She spun out of his grasp, shifted mid-spin, and her wolf form slammed into him with the force of a freight train. They hit the ground hard. Arianeth's jaws closed around his throat. The same position Theron had held earlier. Submission position. Darius froze. Yield. Arianeth growled, the word barely intelligible in wolf form. Around them, every wolf in the clearing watched, waiting. This was it. The moment of judgment. Darius's eyes met hers. In them, she saw rage, hatred, and finally, fear. I yield, he rasped. Arianeth held the position for another heartbeat, making sure everyone heard. Everyone understood. Then she released him and shifted back to human form. Naked, bleeding, victorious. The trial is complete, she announced, her voice carrying across the clearing. Darius Ashcroft yields. Theron Ashcroft is alpha. By combat. By right. By the choice of the pack. The wolves howled. A sound of triumph and relief and joy. Darius lay on the ground, defeated, broken. Theron crossed to Arianeth, ignoring the agony of his wound, and pulled her into his arms. You did it, he whispered against her hair. You saved them. We did it, she corrected. Together. He pulled back just enough to look at her. The bond. Did he? No. You stopped him. Good. Theron's legs gave out. Arianeth caught him, lowering them both to the ground. Healers. Now. Pack members rushed forward, skilled healers who'd been waiting for this moment. They surrounded Theron, working to stabilize him, to remove the silver blade, to stop the bleeding. Arianeth held his hand through all of it, refusing to let go. Stay with me, she whispered. Don't you dare leave me. Not now. Not after everything. Theron's eyes found hers. Not planning on it. We still have unfinished business. What business? He smiled despite the pain. That conversation. About what we are. We're packed. Are we? Arianeth looked at him. At this male who'd never given up on her. Who'd searched for 3 years. Who'd been willing to die to save her. We're more than a pack, she said softly. We're mates, Theron finished. If you'll have me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Are you seriously asking me this while you're bleeding out? It seemed like good timing. You're insane. Is that a yes? Arianeth laughed through her tears. Yes, you idiot. Yes. Theron's smile widened. Then his eyes closed. Theron? Theron. He's stable, one of the healers said quickly. Just unconscious. The silver's out. He'll live. Arianeth slumped in relief. Around her, the pack was moving, securing Darius, tending to the wounded, beginning the long process of reclaiming their home. Evadne appeared at Arianeth's side, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. Thank you, the younger woman said quietly, for everything, for never giving up. Thank your brother. He's the one who found me. I will. But Arianeth. Evadne met her eyes. Welcome home. Home. After 3 years of running, of hiding, of being alone, she was finally home. Chapter 12. Healing in Truth. 3 days after the trial, Theron woke to the smell of pine and rain and something else. Home. He was in his quarters, in the pack house, in the bed he'd slept in for years. Sunlight streamed through the window, painting golden stripes across the wooden floor. And beside him, curled in a chair pulled close to the bed, was Arianeth. She was asleep. Her dark auburn hair fell across her face, the silver streak catching the light. She wore simple clothes, jeans, and one of his shirts, several sizes too large. Her hand rested on the edge of the mattress, fingers barely touching his arm, like she'd fallen asleep keeping watch. Theron studied her face, the sharp cheekbones, the full lips, the faint scar along her jaw from a training accident years ago. Beautiful and fierce and finally at peace. He shifted slightly, testing his body. Pain flared in his side where the silver blade had pierced him, but it was manageable. Healing. His wolf stirred, awake and alert, no longer fighting poison. The movement woke Arianeth. Her eyes flew open, amber gold in the morning light, and immediately focused on him. You're awake, she breathed, sitting up. How long? 3 days. The healer said the silver poisoning was extensive. You needed time to, her voice caught. You almost died, Theron. Your heart stopped twice on the table. But it didn't stop, because I wouldn't let it. She reached out, her hand covering his. I threatened to drag you back from the afterlife myself if you dared leave. Theron smiled. That sounds like you. I'm serious. You don't get to propose, and then die before I can give you a proper answer. I thought you said yes. I said yes while you were bleeding out. That doesn't count. Her eyes sparkled with something between tears and laughter. Ask me again. When you're not dying. Theron pushed himself up to sit, ignoring the protest from his healing wound. Arianeth Vane. Theron Ashcroft. Will you? Wait. She held up her hand. Before you finish that question, there are things you need to know. Things I need to tell you. Arianeth. Please. Her voice was quiet but firm. 3 years ago, I made choices without you. I kept secrets. I let you believe I was dead because I thought it would protect you. I was wrong. I hurt you in ways I can never fully repair. You saved my sister. You saved the pack. I also abandoned you. I broke your trust. I made you mourn someone who wasn't dead. She pulled her hand back, wrapping her arms around herself. Before you ask me to be your mate, before we take that step, you deserve to know everything. The full truth, not just the edited version I've been giving you. Theron watched her, saw the fear and vulnerability in her eyes. All right, tell me. Arianeth took a shaky breath. When I found Darius in that ravine, he was dying. You're right about that. But what I didn't tell you was that part of me wanted to let him die. Part of me wanted to finish what you'd started. That would have been justified. Would it? He was defenseless, broken. Killing him wouldn't have been justice. It would have been murder. She stood, moving to the window, putting space between them. But I was tempted. God, Theron, I was so tempted. Because I knew, even then, what kind of monster he was. What he was capable of. Why didn't you? Because I'm not you. I don't have your strength. Your certainty. She turned to face him. You've always known who you are. Alpha. Leader. Protector. But me? I've spent my whole life trying to figure out where I fit. I was a soldier because that's all I knew how to be. And when Darius offered me that deal, when he gave me a way to protect the pack without having to kill anyone, you took it. I took it. Not because it was the right choice, but because it was the easier one. Because it meant I didn't have to live with the weight of another death on my conscience. Theron was quiet for a long moment. You think that makes you weak, doesn't it? No, it makes you human. Or as human as a wolf can be. He shifted, swinging his legs over the side of the bed. Arianeth, I've made plenty of choices I regret. Decisions that cost lives. People I couldn't save. The difference between you and Darius isn't that you chose mercy. It's that you chose it for the right reasons. I chose it because I was afraid. Fear doesn't make you weak. Acting despite the fear, that's what makes you strong. He stood, crossing the space between them slowly. You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see a female who spent 3 years living in exile to protect people she loved. I see a warrior who walked into an enemy stronghold unarmed to save hostages. I see the wolf who broke a blood oath through sheer force of will because she refused to let a monster win. Tears spilled down Arianeth's cheeks. You make me sound like a hero. You are, even if you don't believe it yet. He cupped her face, his thumbs brushing away her tears. And I'm going to spend every day of our lives together proving it to you. If you'll let me. Theron, ask me why I spent 3 years searching for you, he said softly. Why I couldn't let you go. Why I mourned you like my heart had been ripped out. Why? Because from the moment you joined this pack, from the first time we sparred and you knocked me on my ass in front of everyone I knew, I tried to deny it. I tried to tell myself it was just respect, just friendship, just pack bonds. But it was never just anything. His forehead rested against hers. You're my mate, Arianeth. Not because of magic or bonds or destiny, but because you're the only person who's ever made me want to be more than just an alpha. You make me want to be better, kinder, stronger. I'm broken, she whispered. So am I. We'll heal together. I'm difficult. I know. I wouldn't want you any other way. I snore. Liar. He smiled against her skin. But I'd love you even if you did. Arianeth pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. Say that again. Which part? The part about love. Theron's expression softened into something profound. I love you, Arianeth Vane. I've loved you for 5 years. I'll love you for 500 more. And nothing, not oaths or brothers or distance or time, will ever change that. Fresh tears fell, but these were different. Not tears of pain or regret. Tears of relief. of coming home. I love you too, Arianeth said, the words breaking free like they'd been trapped behind a dam. I've loved you so long I can't remember when it started. And I'm terrified because loving you means trusting you with pieces of me I've never trusted anyone with before. I know. I'm terrified too. He smiled. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. She laughed through her tears. That's the worst romantic line I've ever heard. Yeah. Well, I've been stabbed with silver. Cut me some slack. Fine. But only because you're injured. So is that a yes? Will you accept the mate bond? Arianeth looked at him. At this male who'd never given up on her. Who'd seen her at her worst and still called her strong. Who'd been willing to die to save her. On one condition, she said. Name it. We do this properly. The full ceremony. With the pack as witnesses. No secrets. No hiding. I want everyone to know that I choose you. That I'm choosing to stay. Done. Theron kissed her forehead. Anything else? Yes. After the ceremony, after everything settles, I want to find Kellen's sister. Mira. Darius claimed he had her. If she's still alive, if there's a chance we can save her, we will. Together. He pulled her into his arms, careful of his healing wound. We'll save everyone we can. Build something better than what came before. Make this pack a place where people don't have to choose between love and duty. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other, breathing in sync. A knock at the door broke the silence. Come in, Theron called. Evadne entered, carrying a tray laden with food. She saw them together and smiled. Good. You're awake. And you're talking. Even better. She set the tray on the bedside table. The healers said you need to eat. Rebuild your strength. How's the pack? Theron asked, not letting go of Arianeth. Recovering. We lost 4 wolves in the fighting. 10 more were injured, but they'll heal. Evadne's expression sobered. And Darius is in the holding cells. Under guard. The council is debating what to do with him. Theron's jaw tightened. I know what needs to be done. Exile? Execution? Trial. A real one. With witnesses and evidence and judgment from the full council. Not just me deciding his fate. He looked at Arianeth. We will do things the right way from now on. No shortcuts. No compromises. Evadne nodded approvingly. The pack will support you. Both of you. She looked at Arianeth. You know half of them want to throw you a parade, right? Word spread about what you did. Breaking the oath. Disarming the explosives. Taking down Darius's rogues. You're kind of a legend now. Arianeth shifted uncomfortably. I just did what needed to be done. Exactly. Which is why they love you. Evadne moved toward the door. I'll tell the healers you're awake. They'll want to examine you. And Theron. She paused at the threshold. Thank you. For coming back for us. For never giving up. I'm your brother. It's what I do. No. It's who you are. Evadne smiled. And it's why you'll make a great alpha. Both of you. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Theron looked at Arianeth. Both of us? Don't look at me. I'm not alpha material. You took down a male twice your size, disarmed a bomb, and broke an unbreakable oath. You're exactly alpha material. Co-alpha. Arianeth tested the word. That's not traditional. When have we ever been traditional? Theron guided her back to the bed, sitting beside her. The pack needs leadership. Strong leadership. And you're the strongest wolf I know. I'm also the one who abandoned them for 3 years, which you'll spend the next 30 making up for, if they'll let you. Arianeth was quiet for a moment. Then, what if they don't forgive me? Then we'll earn their forgiveness, day by day, decision by decision, together. He laced his fingers through hers. You're not alone anymore, Arianeth. You don't have to carry everything by yourself. She leaned into him, resting her head on his shoulder. I'm not used to this. To what? Being happy. It feels dangerous, like it could be taken away at any moment. It could be. Happiness is always fragile, but that's what makes it worth protecting. He kissed the top of her head. And I promise you, Arianeth, I will protect this, us, with everything I have, even if it means making hard choices, especially then. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching dust motes dance in the sunlight streaming through the window. Outside, the pack was rebuilding, healing, moving forward. Inside, two wolves who'd spent years denying their feelings were finally allowing themselves to hope. "When do you want to do the ceremony?" Theron asked. "Soon, before I lose my nerve." "You faced down monsters and broken blood oaths. A mating ceremony scares you." "Terrifies me, because it means admitting I want this. I want you. I want a future." She lifted her head to look at him. "What if I'm not good at it? At being a mate? At being back again? Then you'll learn. We both will." He smiled. "Besides, you've already proven you're good at the important things." "Like what?" "Like fighting beside me. Like protecting what matters. Like loving me even when I'm being stubborn and reckless." "You are stubborn and reckless. See, you already know me so well. This mate thing is going to be easy." Arianeth laughed, the sound light and genuine. "Nothing about us is easy." "True, but it's never boring." "Also true." They fell silent again, both processing everything that had happened, everything that was still to come. "Theron," Arianeth said after a while. "Yeah, thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on myself. I couldn't. You're packed. You're mine, and I take care of what's mine." "Possessive much? You have no idea." She smiled against his shoulder. "Good, because I'm pretty possessive too." "Then we're well matched." "In every way." Outside, a wolf howled, a call to gather. The pack responded to their alpha's recovery. Soon, Theron would need to go down, face them, lead them through the aftermath of everything that had happened. But for now, in this quiet moment, he was just a male holding his mate. And that was enough. Chapter 13. Judgment and Mercy. The council chamber was packed. Every ranking member of the Silvercrest pack had gathered, along with representatives from allied packs who'd come to witness justice. The room hummed with tension, anticipation, and the weight of history being made. Arianeth stood beside Theron at the head of the chamber, acutely aware of every eye on her. She wore formal attire, dark pants, and a fitted jacket bearing the Silvercrest insignia. Her hair was pulled back, the silver streak visible and striking, a mark of what she'd survived. Theron stood tall despite the healing wound in his side. He'd refused pain medication, wanting his mind clear for what was to come. He wore the traditional alpha regalia, dark leather and silver clasps, the weight of leadership settling on his shoulders like a familiar cloak. Between them, chained and flanked by guards, stood Darius. He looked diminished, bruised and beaten, his amber eyes flickering between defiance and something that might have been fear. The confident monster who'd held the pack hostage was gone, replaced by a wolf who finally understood he'd lost. "This council convenes to pass judgment on Darius Ashcroft," Theron announced, his voice carrying through the chamber. "Accused of conspiracy, attempted coup, kidnapping, and attempted murder of pack members. How do you plead?" Darius lifted his chin. "Not guilty." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "On what grounds?" asked Counselor Heron, an elderly wolf with more scars than most warriors earned in a lifetime. "On the grounds that everything I did was justified. This pack was mine by birthright. Theron stole it through manipulation and politics." Darius's voice grew stronger. "I am the firstborn son. By the old laws, by tradition, leadership should have passed to me." "The old laws also state that the alpha must be chosen by the pack," Theron countered. "Not inherited like property. When our father died, the pack chose me. You challenged that choice through violence and treachery. I challenged it because it was wrong. You challenged it because you wanted power. There's a difference." Darius laughed, bitter and sharp. "Don't pretend you're better than me, brother. You wanted power too. You just convinced everyone you were doing it for noble reasons. I wanted to protect the pack, to build something that would last. You wanted to rule, to dominate." Theron's eyes hardened. "And when you couldn't win fairly, you resorted to poison and hostages and threatening children. I did what I had to do to survive." "No, you did what you wanted to do, because you've never cared about anyone but yourself." The words hung in the air, damning and true. Counselor Heron cleared his throat. "We have testimony from multiple witnesses. Kellen Frost, who was coerced into service through the kidnapping of his sister, Marcus Thorne, who observed the hostage situation, and Arianeth Vane, who made a blood oath under duress 3 years ago. All eyes turned to Arianeth. She stepped forward, her voice steady. Darius Ashcroft manipulated me into swearing a blood oath by threatening the pack. He claimed the oath bound us both equally, but it was a lie. He bound me to silence while keeping himself free to act. For 3 years, I lived in exile believing I was protecting this pack. In truth, I was simply running from a monster who enjoyed the game. She's lying, Darius spat. She came to me willingly, offered her service in exchange for my survival. She's just trying to save face now that her choices have consequences. I have proof, Arianeth said quietly. She pulled a small vial from her pocket. Inside, a thread of silver light pulsed softly. Varia Nightshade extracted a piece of the oath during the ritual to weaken it. This thread contains the magical signature of the bond. Any which can read it. Verify the truth. She handed the vial to Counselor Heron. The old wolf studied it, then nodded to a figure standing at the back of the room. Varia Nightshade stepped forward from the shadows. Her presence made several council members shift uncomfortably. Witches were rarely welcome in pack proceedings, but these were extraordinary circumstances. With your permission, Alpha, Varia said, her black eyes fixed on Theron. Granted. Varia took the vial, uncorked it, and let the silver thread float into the air. It hung there, suspended, pulsing with ancient magic. She spoke words in a language older than wolves, older than memory. The thread began to glow, brighter and brighter, until images formed in the light. The council chamber fell silent as they watched. Arianeth in the ravine, kneeling beside Darius's broken body. Darius's voice, weak but venomous. Help me escape, and I'll leave the pack alone. Refuse, and I'll send every rogue in the territory to slaughter them, starting with the Vadni. Arianeth's hands shaking as she carved symbols into stone. Darius spoke the binding words, twisting them, making the oath one-sided even as he made Arianeth believe it was mutual. The moment the bond snapped into place, chains of magic wrapped around Arianeth's soul while Darius remained free. The images faded. Varia corked the vial. The oath was fraudulent, designed to control, not protect. Arianeth Vane spoke the truth. Darius's face went pale. That proves nothing. She still chose to help me. Still chose to. She chose to save lives. Evadne's voice cut through the chamber. She stepped forward, her bruises still visible but healing. My life. The pack's lives. She sacrificed 3 years of freedom, 3 years of belonging to protect us from you. And it was wasted effort, Darius sneered. Because here we are anyway. Everyone knows the truth. Everything is falling apart. Her sacrifice meant nothing. It meant everything, Theron said quietly. It bought us time. Time to grow stronger. Time to prepare. Time to become a pack that couldn't be destroyed by one wolf's ambition. He looked at his brother. You thought you were playing chess, moving pieces, controlling outcomes. But you underestimated the one thing you've never understood. What's that? Love. Loyalty. The bonds that hold a pack together even when everything's falling apart. Theron gestured to the assembled wolves. These people didn't stay because they feared you. They stayed because they love each other. Because they believe in something bigger than power. Darius's expression twisted with contempt. Love is weakness. It makes you vulnerable. Controllable. No. Love is what made Arianeth willing to sacrifice everything for strangers. It's what made Kellen confess his betrayal, even knowing it might cost him his life. It's what brought wolves from 3 different packs to fight beside us against impossible odds. Theron's voice softened. You could have had that, Darius. You could have been part of something real. But you chose power instead. And power without love is just tyranny dressed in pretty words. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered in Darius's eyes. Regret? Understanding? Then it was gone, replaced by cold defiance. So what now? Darius asked. You've proven I'm a monster. Congratulations. Are you going to execute me? Make it quick and merciful. No, Theron said. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Alpha, with respect, Counselor Heron began, this wolf has committed crimes punishable by death under pack law. Attempted coup, kidnapping, murder conspiracy. The sentence is clear. The sentence is mine to decide, Theron said, his alpha command silencing the room. And I choose exile. Darius's eyes widened. What? Exile. Permanent. You will be stripped of pack bonds, of territory, of name. You will leave Silvercrest lands and never return. If you're found within 100 miles of this territory, the sentence becomes execution. No trial. No mercy. You're letting me live? Darius's voice was disbelieving. I'm giving you the same choice you gave Arianeth. Run and survive. Or stay and die. Theron leaned forward. But hear me clearly, brother. If you ever threaten this pack again, if you ever come near anyone I love, I won't hesitate. I won't show mercy a second time. Why? Darius demanded. Why exile instead of execution? Theron was quiet for a long moment. Because you're my brother. And despite everything you've done, despite all the pain you've caused, that still means something. Not enough to forgive you. Not enough to let you stay. But enough to give you a chance at something different. Something better than what you've become. I don't want your pity. It's not a pity. It's hope. That maybe, somewhere far from here, you'll find a reason to be more than a monster. Theron straightened. But that's your choice. Just like it was always your choice. Run or die. Those are your options. Darius stared at him, searching for the trap, the hidden angle. There wasn't one. This was mercy. Real mercy. The kind that hurts to give because it would be so much easier to just end the threat permanently. When? Darius asked finally. Now. You have 1 hour to leave pack lands. After that, every wolf here is authorized to kill you on sight. The guards unlocked Darius's chains. He rubbed his wrists, still staring at Theron. You're a fool. Exile won't stop me. One day I'll come back. I'll find a way to. No, you won't. Arianeth stepped forward. Because if you do, you won't be facing Theron. You'll be facing me. And I won't hesitate. I won't give you a speech about redemption or hope. I'll just end you. Her amber eyes glowed with wolf fire. Run, Darius. Run far and fast. And pray we never meet again. Darius looked between them. At the united front they presented. At the pack standing behind them, ready to defend their alphas. He'd lost. Completely. Fine, he said quietly. I'll go. But you're right about one thing, Theron. This isn't over. Not because I'll come back, but because you'll always wonder if you made the right choice. Every shadow, every threat, every moment of peace, you'll wonder if I'm out there, planning, waiting. I can live with that, Theron said. Can you live with knowing you threw away everything for power you never deserved? Darius didn't answer. He turned and walked toward the door, flanked by guards who would escort him to the boundary. As he reached the threshold, he paused. Arianeth, he said without turning. The oath may be broken, but I want you to know, part of me did care. In my own twisted way. You were the only one who ever saw past the monster. I saw what you could have been, Arianeth replied. Not what you chose to become. There's a difference. Darius nodded once. Then he was gone. The door closed behind him. Silence filled the chamber. Finally, Counselor Heron spoke. That was unexpected, Alpha. Necessary, Theron corrected. We're building something new here. Something better. And that means not repeating the cycles of violence that brought us to this moment. Some will say you were too lenient. Some will say I was too harsh. Leadership means making choices that not everyone will agree with. Theron looked around the chamber. But I believe this was right. Not because Darius deserves mercy, but because we do. We deserve to be better than our worst impulses. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. There is one more matter to address, Counselor Heron said. The matter of succession. Alpha Theron, you were gravely injured in combat. You have no heir, and pack law requires. Co-leadership, Theron interrupted. Arianeth Vane and I will lead as equals. Co-alphas. It's unconventional, but so is everything else about us. This caused more murmuring, louder this time. The pack has never had co-alphas, another counselor protested. Then we'll be the first, Arianeth said, her voice firm. I know I have to earn your trust. I know I've been gone for 3 years, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. The question isn't whether you're going anywhere, Counselor Heron said gently. It's whether you're ready to lead, to make impossible choices, to carry the weight of hundreds of lives on your shoulders. She's ready, Evadne said, stepping forward again. I've watched her disarm explosives while under threat. I've watched her break an unbreakable oath through sheer will. I've watched her put herself between danger and this pack without hesitation. If that's not leadership, I don't know what is. I agree, Marcus added, moving to stand beside Evadne. Arianeth Vane has proven herself 100 times over. She has my support. One by one, wolves stepped forward. Kellen, the warriors who'd fought beside her, the hostages she'd helped save, even some of the counselors. We call for a vote, Counselor Heron announced. All in favor of recognizing Arianeth Vane as co-alpha of Silvercrest Pack. Hands raised. Voices called out agreement. It wasn't unanimous. Some still held reservations. But it was enough. More than enough. Then it's decided, Counselor Heron said. By vote of the Council and voice of the Pack, Arianeth Vane is recognized as co-alpha. The formal mating ceremony will take place at the next full moon. Until then, both alphas will lead together. Theron looked at Arianeth, pride shining in his gray eyes. She looked back, overwhelmed and terrified and grateful all at once. Together, he said quietly. Together, she echoed. The council chamber erupted in cheers. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. Darius Ashcroft crossed the boundary line and kept walking, leaving behind everything he'd ever known. And in the pack house, two wolves who'd spent years denying their connection finally allowed themselves to believe. In second chances, in redemption, in love strong enough to rebuild what had been broken. The future wasn't certain. There would be challenges ahead, threats to face, decisions to make. But for the first time in 3 years, Arianeth wasn't facing them alone. Chapter 14. The Mating Ceremony. The full moon rose over Silvercrest territory like a silver coin pressed against black velvet. Arianeth stood in front of the mirror in Evadne's quarters, barely recognizing the woman staring back at her. The dress was traditional. White silk that flowed like water, embroidered with silver thread in patterns that represented the phases of the moon. Off the shoulders, cinched at the waist, falling to the floor in soft waves. Her dark auburn hair had been woven with tiny white flowers, the silver streak left loose and visible. A mark of survival, of strength. You look beautiful, Evadne said softly, adjusting the drape of the fabric. Like a warrior princess from the old stories. I feel like an imposter, Arianeth admitted. 3 weeks ago, I was scrubbing floors in a diner. Now I'm about to become co-alpha and mate to the most powerful wolf on the East Coast. You were never just a maid. You were always exactly who you are now. You just forgot for a while. Evadne stepped back, admiring her work. Theron's going to lose his mind when he sees you. That's the plan. Good plan. Evadne smiled, but it faded quickly. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you ever regret it? The 3 years you lost? The time you could have had with him? Arianeth considered the question. Sometimes. But regret doesn't change the past. It only poisons the future. What happened, happened. All I can do now is make sure the next 3 years, the next 30 years, count for something. That's very wise, or very denial-filled. Hard to tell sometimes. Arianeth turned from the mirror. What about you? How are you really doing? After everything Darius put you through? Evadne's hand went unconsciously to her ribs, where bruises were still fading. I'm healing. Physically, at least. Emotionally? She shrugged. He was my uncle. Family. And he was willing to kill me to hurt Theron. That's not something you just get over. No, it's not. But I have good days. And therapy. And a pack that actually cares. Evadne managed a small smile. And soon I'll have a sister. So that's something. Arianeth felt warmth bloom in her chest. A sister. I like that. A knock at the door interrupted them. Marcus poked his head in. It's time. The pack is assembled. Arianeth's heart kicked into overdrive. Already? You've been getting ready for 3 hours. Any longer, and Theron's going to storm up here himself. He wouldn't dare. It's bad luck to see the bride before the ceremony. Since when do you care about luck? Since I'm about to bind my soul to someone for the rest of my life. Arianeth took a deep breath. Okay, I'm ready. Are you? Evadne asked gently. Arianeth thought about it. About Theron. About the pack. About the future they were building together. Yes, she said firmly. I'm ready. They descended the grand staircase, past pack members who'd gathered to watch, through corridors decorated with candles and flowers. The entire pack house had been transformed. Every surface gleamed. Every shadow held light. Hope made visible. They emerged into the clearing where the trial had taken place 3 weeks ago. But it looked nothing like it had then. The blood had been washed away. The platform was removed. In its place stood an archway woven from pine branches and white roses. Hundreds of candles lined a path through the assembled pack members. And at the end of that path, Theron. He wore traditional ceremonial clothing, dark leather pants, a vest embroidered with pack symbols, and nothing else. His chest was bare, revealing the network of scars that mapped his history. His dark hair was brushed back from his face. His gray eyes caught the moonlight and held it. He looked like something out of a dream. Dangerous, beautiful. Hers. Their eyes met across the distance. Everything else faded away. The pack, the candles, the weight of ceremony and tradition. There was only him. Marcus offered his arm. Shall we? We shall. They walked the candlelit path together. With each step, Arianeth felt the pack bonds humming, strengthening. These wolves, her wolves, are witnessing this moment, approving, celebrating. She'd been gone for 3 years, but they'd welcomed her back. Give her a second chance, and she wouldn't waste it. When they reached the archway, Marcus stepped aside. Arianeth and Theron stood facing each other, hands clasped, while Counselor Heron took his place between them. Pack of Silvercrest, the old wolf announced, his voice carrying through the clearing. We gather under the full moon to witness the mating bond between Theron Ashcroft and Arianeth Vane. 2 souls, 2 wolves, choosing to become one. The pack howled in response, a sound of joy and approval that raised the hairs on Arianeth's arms. The mating bond is sacred, Heron continued. It is not entered lightly. It is a promise, a commitment, a merging of lives, of futures, of everything you are and everything you will become. He looked at Theron Ashcroft, Alpha of Silvercrest. Do you accept Arianeth Vane as your mate, your equal, your partner in all things? I do. Theron's voice was steady, absolute. I accept her as mate, as co-alpha, as the other half of my soul. I promise to stand beside her in times of peace and war, to honor her strength and cherish her vulnerability, to love her when it's easy and fight for her when it's hard. His words washed over Arianeth like a wave. Heron turned to her. Arianeth Vane, do you accept Theron Ashcroft as your mate, your equal, your partner in all things? Arianeth's voice shook slightly, but didn't break. I do. I accept him as mate, as co-alpha, as the one who saw me when I was invisible. I promise to stand beside him in light and darkness, to trust him with my fears and share my strength, to love him for who he is, not who I need him to be. Theron's eyes gleamed with unshed tears. Then by the power vested in me by pack law and ancient tradition, Heron said, I declare this bond recognized. You may exchange marks. This was the moment, the physical manifestation of the bond. Theron cupped Arianeth's face, his thumb brushing across her cheek. Are you sure? Once this is done. I'm sure. She smiled. I've never been more sure of anything. He leaned down, his lips brushing the curve where her neck met her shoulder. This will hurt, I know, but it will also be the most profound connection you've ever felt. I know that too. Theron's teeth found her skin. The bite was sharp, precise. Ancient magic surges through the wound, marking her as his, him as hers. Pain blazed, white-hot and overwhelming. But underneath the pain, connection. She felt Theron's emotions flood through the bond. His love, his relief, his absolute certainty that she was meant to be his. And she knew he felt hers in return. When he pulled back, blood gleamed on his lips. The mark on her shoulder was already healing, leaving behind a perfect crescent moon scar. twin to the one on her shoulder blade. Old and new, past and future. Now it was her turn. Arianeth rose on her toes, found the same spot on Theron's neck, and bit down. His blood filled her mouth, copper and salt and something else. Something that tasted like home. The bond completed, snapped into place like a key turning in a lock. Suddenly, she could feel everything. His heartbeat, his breathing. His wolf recognized hers with a joy so profound it brought tears to her eyes. She pulled back, licking the blood from her lips. Theron stared at her, his pupils blown wide, his chest heaving. Mine, he breathed. Ours, she corrected. Ours, he agreed. Counselor Heron raised his hands. The bond is complete. The marks were exchanged. I present to you a pack of Silvercrest, your alphas, Theron and Arianeth Ashcroft. The pack erupted. Howls filled the night. Wolves shifted, their forms dancing in the moonlight, celebrating the union of their leaders. Theron pulled Arianeth into his arms and kissed her. Not gently, not carefully, with 3 years of longing and a lifetime of promises. She kissed him back with equal fervor, her hands fisting in his hair, her body pressed against his. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, the pack was still howling. Should we shift? Arianeth asked. Run with them? In a minute. Theron rested his forehead against hers. First, I just want to look at you. My mate. My partner. My everything. Sentimental much? You bring it out in me. Good. She kissed him again, softer this time. Because I plan to bring out a lot of things in you over the next several decades. Promises, promises. They shifted together, their wolves erupting into being simultaneously. His, large and silver-tipped. Hers, sleek and marked with crescent moons. They ran, through the forest, through the territory, the pack flowing around them like water. Young wolves and old, warriors and healers, all of them, bound by something stronger than blood. Choice. They chose to be packed. Choose to follow. Choose to build something worth protecting. And at the head of the pack, 2 wolves ran side by side. Equal. Matched. Complete. The night stretched before them, full of possibility. Somewhere in the distance, Darius walked alone, exiling his only companion. Somewhere else, Mira waited in captivity, unaware that wolves were already searching for her. Somewhere beyond the territory, threats gathered, challenges waited. The world continued to turn. But here, now, at this moment, there was only joy, only pack, only home. Arianeth's wolf threw back its head and howled, a sound of triumph and relief and bone-deep happiness. Theron's wolf joined her, their voices harmonizing, and the pack answered, a chorus of celebration that echoed through the mountains. They ran until dawn and began to paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. Then they returned to the pack house, shifted back to human form, and retreated to their quarters, alone at last. Theron closed the door, leaned against it, and just looked at her. What? Arianeth asked, suddenly self-conscious. I'm trying to convince myself this is real. That you're really here. That you're really mine. Ours, she corrected again, crossing to him. And yes, I'm really here. For as long as you'll have me. Forever, then. That works. He pulled her into his arms, breathing in her scent. Pine and rain and something uniquely her. I love you, he said against her hair. I know I've said it before, but I need you to hear it again. I love you, Arianeth Ashcroft. Every scar, every secret, every complicated, beautiful piece of you. I love you too. She pulled back just enough to meet his eyes. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it. How? By staying. By choosing you every single day. By building this pack into something our children will be proud to inherit. Children. Theron's eyebrows raised. We're talking about children already? Eventually. Maybe. If we survive the next few years without killing each other. Oh, we'll survive. He kissed her forehead. We'll do more than survive. We'll thrive. Promise? Promise. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other, feeling the bond pulse between them like a second heartbeat. Outside, the sun continued to rise. A new day, a new beginning, and 2 wolves who'd found their way home. Chapter 15. 6 months later. Winter settled over Silvercrest territory like a blessing. Snow blanketed the forest in pristine white, muffling sound, transforming the landscape into something from a fairy tale. The pack house glowed warm against the cold, smoke curling from chimneys, windows bright with firelight. Inside, life had found a new rhythm. Arianeth stood in the training center, watching a group of young wolves practice combat forms. She wore simple training clothes, her hair pulled back in a practical braid, the mating mark on her neck visible and proud. "No, Cora," she called out to a teenage wolf whose stance was too wide. "Tighten your guard. You're leaving your ribs exposed." The girl adjusted, tried the move again. "Better. Good. Again. 20 more reps. Then we'll work on counters." The training session continued, a mixture of discipline and encouragement that Arianeth had spent months perfecting. She'd forgotten how much she loved this. Teaching, shaping the next generation of warriors, giving them skills that might save their lives someday. When the session ended, the young wolves filed out, chattering and laughing, their energy infectious. Evadne appeared in the doorway, bundled in a thick coat. "The council meeting starts in 10 minutes. Thought you'd want to know." "Already?" Arianeth checked the clock on the wall. "Time flies when you're correcting terrible footwork. Speaking of which, how are the new recruits?" "Promising. Rough around the edges, but willing to learn." Arianeth grabbed a towel, wiping sweat from her face. Cora might actually be exceptional if she can get over her tendency to overthink everything. "Sounds like someone else I know. Careful. I can still put you on your ass in 3 moves. I'd like to see you try Co-Alpha." Evadne grinned. "Come on. Theron's already in the council chamber, and Marcus says the reports from the western boundary are concerning." They walked through the pack house together, past members who nodded respectfully, past decorations being hung for the upcoming winter solstice celebration. The building hummed with life, with purpose, so different from 6 months ago when it had been a prison. The council chamber was already full when they arrived. Theron stood at the head of the table, studying a map spread across its surface. He wore dark jeans and a sweater, casual but commanding. His eyes lifted when Arianeth entered, and warmth flooded the bond between them. "Hello, mate. Hello yourself. Miss me?" "Always." The silent exchange lasted only a moment, but it was enough. It always was. "We're all here," Theron announced, calling the meeting to order. "Marcus, you had concerns about the western boundary?" Marcus stood, gesturing to the map. "We've had 3 incidents in the past 2 weeks. Rogues testing our borders. Not attacking, just watching. Gathering intelligence." "Numbers?" Arianeth asked, moving to stand beside Theron. "Small groups. 4 to 6 wolves. They retreat when confronted, but they keep coming back." "Organized reconnaissance," Theron said grimly. "Someone's planning something." "Or someone's afraid," suggested Kellen, who'd earned back his place on the council through months of dedicated service. "Could be rogues looking for safe territory. Winter's harsh for wolves without a pack." "Could be," Arianeth agreed. "But we can't assume the best. Not after Darius." The name still brought tension to the room. Darius hadn't been seen or heard from since his exile. Some believed he was dead. Others thought he was gathering forces. Arianeth tried not to think about it. Tried being the operative word. "I'll increase patrols on the western boundary," she said. "Double the guards. And we should reach out to the Shadow Peak pack. See if they're experiencing similar activity." "Already done," Theron said. "Noriel reports the same thing. Rogues watching. Waiting." "Then it's coordinated." Arianeth studied the map, her tactical mind already running scenarios. "Someone's building a picture of our defenses, testing for weaknesses. Or they're trying to distract us," Evadne offered. "Keep our attention on the borders while something else happens." "Like what?" "I don't know. But Darius always had backup plans. What if he left something behind? Some kind of contingency we haven't found yet." The council fell silent, considering the possibility. "We've swept the entire territory 3 times, Marcus said. Checked every building, every cache, every place we know about," Arianeth interrupted. "But Darius had 6 years to prepare. Who knows what he might have hidden?" Theron's jaw tightened. "Then we sweep again. Thoroughly. Leave no stone unturned." He looked around the table. I want teams assigned to every sector. If there's anything out there, we will find it before spring. Nods of agreement circled the room. One more thing, Counselor Heron said. The matter of Mira Frost. Kellen's expression shuddered. His sister. Still missing after 6 months of searching. Any news? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Actually, yes. Heron slid a folder across the table. Our contacts in the rogue networks have located her. She's being held in a compound 300 miles north, heavily guarded, but alive. Kellen's hands shook as he opened the folder. Inside were grainy photos. A female wolf, thin and scarred but recognizably his sister. When do we move? He asked. We don't, Theron said gently. Not yet. We need more intelligence. Guard rotations, entry points, escape routes. She's been in there for 8 months, Kellen's voice cracked. Every day we wait is another day we spend planning properly, Arianeth finished. I know it's hard, but rushing in without preparation gets people killed, including Mira. Kellen's jaw clenched, but he nodded. How long? 2 weeks, Theron said. We gather intel, we plan the extraction, and then we go. All of us. No one gets left behind this time. Thank you, Kellen breathed. The meeting continued, covering territory disputes, supply management, and preparations for winter. When it finally concluded, the council filed out, leaving Theron and Arianeth alone. You okay? Arianeth asked, reading the tension in his shoulders. Worried. About the rogues. About Mira. About what we're missing. He turned to face her. 6 months ago, we thought it was over. That we'd won. But it feels like we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Maybe we are. Or maybe we're just being cautious because we've learned what happens when we're not. When did you become an optimist? When I made it a chronic worrier. Someone has to balance you out. That earned her a smile. Small but genuine. Arianeth moved behind him, her hands working the knots in his shoulders. We'll handle whatever comes. Together. That's what we do now. Together, he echoed, leaning into her touch. A knock at the door interrupted them. Come in, Theron called. Evadne entered, her expression strange. Excited? Nervous? Hard to tell. You have a visitor, she said. At the main gate. She says it's urgent. Who? Varia Nightshade. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Theron and Arianeth exchanged glances. The witch hadn't been seen since the night she'd weakened Arianeth's oath. What could bring her here now? Send her to my office, Theron said. We'll meet her there. 10 minutes later, they stood facing the witch in Theron's private office. Varia looked the same as always. Ageless, otherworldly. Her black eyes reflected no light. You owe me a favor, she said without preamble. I've come to collect. Arianeth's stomach dropped. She'd known this was coming. I had spent 6 months dreading it. What do you want? She asked. Information. And possibly your help. Varia moved to the window, staring out at the snow-covered forest. There's a disturbance in the old magic. Something that hasn't been seen in centuries. A summoning. A summoning of what? That's what I need to find out. And I need a wolf who can navigate pack politics and deadly situations without flinching. Her black eyes are fixed on Arianeth. I need you. For how long? A week. Maybe 2. Depends on what we find. Theron stepped forward. Absolutely not. Arianeth has responsibilities here. The pack. We'll survive 2 weeks without her, Varia interrupted. And if this summoning succeeds, if what I suspect is true, there won't be a pack to protect. There won't be anything. What are you talking about? Arianeth demanded. There are things older than wolves, children, older than witches, older than this world, and someone is trying to wake them up. Varia's expression was grave. I need to stop them, and I can't do it alone. Arianeth looked at Theron. Through the bond, she felt his fear, his reluctance to let her go, but also his understanding. A debt was a debt. I'll go, Arianeth said. On one condition. You tell us everything. No more cryptic warnings. No more half-truths. Full disclosure. Varia smiled. Agreed. But you won't like what you hear. I rarely do. Then let's talk. You're going to need to understand exactly what we're facing. For the next hour, Varia explained. About ancient beings locked away before human civilization. About weakening seals. about a group of rogues who'd found old texts and were attempting to free something that should never be freed. By the time she finished, both Theron and Arianeth looked shaken. How do we stop them? Theron asked. We found the summoning site. We interrupt the ritual. We make sure whatever's trying to break through stays locked away. And if we can't, then we die, along with everyone else on this continent. Silence fell over the office. Finally, Arianeth spoke. When do we leave? Dawn. Pack light. We'll be traveling through territories that don't welcome wolves or witches. Wonderful. Varia stood. I'll return at first light. Be ready. She paused at the door. And Arianeth? Thank you. I know this isn't what you signed up for. None of this is what I signed up for. But here we are. When the witch left, Theron pulled Arianeth into his arms. I don't like this, he said. I know. 2 weeks is a long time. I'll have my phone. We can video call. You'll barely notice I'm gone. Liar. He kissed her forehead. I notice every minute you're not beside me. Good. That means the bond is working. She pulled back to look at him. This is what we signed up for, though. Both of us. Being alpha means protecting the pack. Even when it's hard. Even when it's dangerous. I know. Doesn't mean I have to like it. No, it doesn't. She cupped his face. But it means I'll come back. Because I have something to come back to. Promise? Promise. They stood like that until the sun set, holding each other, drawing strength from the bond. That night, they made love slowly, tenderly, memorizing each other in case 2 weeks turned into something longer. And in the morning, as the first light touched the snow, Arianeth stood at the gates of Silvercrest territory, a pack on her back, determination in her heart. Theron stood beside her, his hand clasped in hers. 2 weeks, he said. 2 weeks, she agreed. Then you come home. Then I come home. They kissed, deep and desperate and full of promises. When they pulled apart, Varia was waiting, her expression unreadable. Ready, the witch asked. Arianeth looked back at the pack house, at Evadne waving from the steps, at the wolves who'd become family, at Theron, her mate, her anchor, her everything. Ready, she said. And together, a wolf and a witch walked into the forest, toward danger, toward the unknown, toward whatever came next. Behind them, Theron watched until they disappeared from sight. Then he turned back to the pack house, back to the responsibilities of leadership, back to the work of building something worth protecting, because that's what alphas did. They were protected. They led. They held the line while others fought the battles that needed fighting. And they waited for their mates to come home, for spring to arrive, for the future they were building, one day at a time. The story of Theron and Arianeth wasn't over. It was just beginning, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the territory, old things stirred. Ancient powers awakening, challenges yet to face, but also hope, because wolves who could survive what they'd survived could survive anything. Together, always together. The end.
Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Silvercrest Pack. If you enjoyed Theron and Arianeth's story, please like this video, leave a comment sharing your favorite moment, and subscribe for more werewolf romance audiobooks. What should happen next? Should we follow Arianeth's journey with Varia? Should we explore Kellen's mission to rescue his sister? Or should we discover what became of Darius in exile? Let me know in the comments below. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to bring you more stories of loyalty, love, and the bonds that make us stronger. Until next time, may your pack be strong and your heart be true.